Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hey, guess what, Teddy? What can we not stop doing?
We can't stop snapping on these power couples. Valentine's Day Imbalance patch is live and it is everywhere. There's no escaping these power duos. Some of them heralded by that Heroes. Do you remember when they did that Heroes music video? That was sick.
Oh, yeah.
These power couples also have been very fun. I actually went all in on like a Sarah Miracle deck just right away, and I won Silver Conquest or something like straight through. It's been pretty fun to play around with. What do you think, Brad, on this imbalance patch?
So, yeah, first things first, no OTA this week because of this. The next one is going to be scheduled for the 29th is when we are getting our next update, which is pretty crazy because it's, the normal schedule is you patch, OTA, off week, OTA. So now we're just getting off week. So
right,
people are going to be a little upset about that, I'm sure. As far as the power couples,
it's the Hello deck, right? People are sick of Hella.
I saw someone say that they're tired of Hella, and I'm like, I barely see it, to be honest.
I see it a lot.
I see Destroy. I see Black Knight. Destroy is everywhere. I see Black Knight oftentimes, and honestly, and also by the way, I'm talking about Black Knight, I'm talking about Hella. Okay. I've been playing some Electra, and she's been really good against Black Knight. And then
it's amazing when they discard a card they needed and then they don't get the blade. They're like, what do they got to do? I was trying with Killmonger just in some like a good cards deck that was okay as long as I could play it at the same time that they're playing Lady Sif. Yeah, Electra hits just a little bit harder. Honestly, Electra at 1-2, like, I didn't like the way they did the change, but the card is playable now.
I agree.
Much as I hate to say it, I would rather it be bad and they change it again. But as it is playable.
But yeah, so I don't think Hell is a problem. It's too RG focused. Same thing with Lockjaw. The amount of times I've lost because of Lockjaw sucking, or I've won because my Lockjaw sucked, or Hella sucked, or whatever, is probably the same amount that I've, my opponent's won or I've won, right? It balances out. But anyway, the power couples, I don't like it. I'm going to say right off rip, I don't like it for a specific reason. I think it's interesting. I think it's a cool idea. I like the idea. I don't like the execution of the fact that it's in a conquest and in ladder, because when I'm streaming and I'm trying to test different decks and stuff like that, we're going through lines and everything, trying to think of what our opponent's going to do. It's really hard to rewire your brain to remember what all the power couples are and then just be like, oh yeah, they're going to play whatever, like Scarlet Witch in this deck. So I never see Scarlet Witch anymore, for example, so I don't have it on my mind. And they take away a limbo, or they change the location to hurt me when I was doing a Cerebro challenge or whatever. Yeah. It's because it's in both. If it was just in ladder and I could go to Conquest to kind of not see it, just like featured locations, hot locations, I would like it way more. I will say, I do think this is them testing the waters for a mechanic in two ways. One,
and I think it is a brilliant mechanic. This is truly the first time we've seen a new mechanic in Snap since the game released. When the game released, we had the bones of everything that exists right now. Nothing came out that was truly novel, except, okay, you can argue High Evolutionary and Thanos, right? But even Thanos was in the game. He just wasn't released.
Right.
But this is something that's very tantalizing on what they could do in the future with the...
Yeah, and the way they're testing it, it tests it in two ways. First, it tests it, mechanically, or I guess what's the better word? Their own engine, their own in-game client, how well it handles it. It's so an easy way to be does it work, right?
Yeah, the power couple mechanic, for anyone that hasn't gotten to play around with this, is that, or if you're watching in the future and don't remember how it's implemented, it's an on-reveal, and you have two cards that each have this... But it functions as an on-reveal.
Yeah, but it gets underneath Cosmo, like Leech.
Yes. But once one card is played, it will buff the other card by a certain amount wherever that card is. And then when that card is played, it will buff the other part of the couple. Duplicates do not re-trigger, and then if that one side of the couple is destroyed or removed for any reason, as long as it was played, the buff is still applied to the other half of the couple.
Right. And of course, the other way they're testing it, testing the waters, is public reception. Like, how do the players like it, kind of thing.
Do you think with some of these, like, they are buffing cards that are truly bottom feeders? Are they just trying to see, like, hey, does Captain America just need 2 more power? Because he kind of
Right.
does, but at 2 more power, he feels fine. Like, honestly, this Agent 13 Captain America, that can just stay by my book.
Yeah. So here's the list of all of them. It's Angela Sarah get +1, Black Panther Nakia get +1, Captain America Agent 13 +2, Gambit Rogue +2,
Never seen that one.
Viz and Fantastic +2,
See that
Iron
one a
Man
lot.
Rescue +1, Miles Morales Ghost Spider +1. Have not seen that one at all,
Nope.
by the way.
Nope.
She-Hulk Daredevil +2, seen that one a lot.
Yeah.
Star-Lord Gamora, that one's easy, +1, and Vision Scarlet Witch +1. I've seen pretty much all of these except for Miles and the Black Panther one.
Yeah, I've not played with the Black Panther one either. So even in the deck, like, I played a deck that was all in on these, and I didn't play with a couple of these, and I haven't really gone back for them. I kind of wish they had gone harder on this. The +1 is just so meh on cards that are
Yeah.
not great and cards that don't naturally synergize together. Now, you can argue on some of these that they do have synergy or that they weren't that bad, but they are rarely ever getting played, let alone played together. And so then the +1 is just like still not enough. Like Miles Morales goes by to like stop trying to make move happen.
Right.
They
Like,
could have gone so much harder here.
Black Panther would have been a better one if Nakia and Shuri's abilities were switched. Because of course they're not going to put Shuri because that's the sister for the Power Couple event. But if Nakia had Shuri's ability and Shuri had Nakia's, then you would just choose like that and it'd be way better. Like, because then it curves into it. Because like at least Rescue Iron Man goes 4 into 5, right?
Yeah.
And Nakia Black Panther, there's a stopgap. And I same thing with like Vision
On,
stuff like that, and
yeah.
Scarlet and Gamora and stuff. But at least Star-Lord and Gamora do the same thing. So you can
Right.
have synergy in the deck.
One of the tough things here is that any couple with a very expensive card on one side makes it really hard to get the buff to work together, especially if you're trying to play multiple synergies together. You have so many competing 5 costs. Like the Angela Sarah is one that plays very naturally, and then the Captain America Agent 13 is the one that's felt the best because they're both cheap and the buff is +2. So that
Right.
brought these cards that were just on the fringe anyway into being good stat lines and cheap enough that you can work the buff on their stat lines in pretty effectively. I mean, just, man, playing Agent 13 into Captain America on 3 and you have 10 power on that board because Captain America is giving the buff to Agent 13 there.
Yeah.
That feels amazing.
Well, as far as the way the mechanic is, and like I was saying, I think they're testing the waters to kind of introduce a new mechanic.
Yes.
I have a way that they can bring it to the game to where it works, because let's look at Cull as an example. We'll talk about Cull and our experience with him in a second. But when he was originally data mined, he said he needed to be played with an Infinity Stone instead, not a 1 cost.
Yep.
And they made the correct choice of changing that, because if they released him as that, it's more flavorful, it's more interesting. I agree with that. But you're telling your consumers, your player base, you gotta buy Thanos and you gotta buy Cull, which maybe in this week when they're both in the same spotlight is manageable. But outside of that, you're now saying you have to handcuff them together for every spotlight. You have, and then like as far as tokens are concerned, well, no one's ever going to buy one or the other. Well, they'll buy Thanos. No one's ever going to buy Cull if they don't have Thanos yet. What I mean by that, right?
Yeah, exactly. You get Cull and you don't have Thanos and he's actually unplayable. Like that's crazy. Right. So they couldn't do that.
And that's the same thing with this idea. They can't release multiple cards tied together, just like Cull and Thanos would have been, to have this power couple type of mechanic. What they can do, however, is release one card that when it's put into your deck, maybe something similar to Thanos and Haivo, they split and become 2 cards, and now you have a 13-card deck.
Oh, fascinating. And so they would release a single, so it would be almost, or also like a Snow Guard, right?
Exactly.
Or like an earlier version of Snow Guard. But if you include this card at the start of the game, you will add the couple side into your deck. That would be really interesting. I thought you were going to go high evolutionary and just say that it turns on power couple synergies.
Oh, I mean, that could work too.
Because what I was thinking of is, say, X-Men. We have most of, if not all, the X-Men team. They have little to no synergies together, but they are lore-wise a very cohesive unit. you release a leader card that then activates power couple synergy for all X-Men, and then they all get, whatever buff you think is appropriate for being able to play multiples, and then you're taking a deck that has some very interesting effects, but not necessarily synergy together, and you give them synergy together,
right?
And then you have the X-Men as a deck.
Right, yeah,
or
yeah.
the Avengers.
That feels like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, if you would actually have like the correct team together, and it'd be like Avengers, and it's like you get plus 15 crit damage, or you got plus extra just whatever rate of picking up shit if you had a certain team together. So that could be interesting. But yeah, I think the most natural way is probably having a card spawn and then split. Now they could do it two ways. They could have it split like a Haivo or like Thanos kind of thing, where like it kind of like spawns it and it spawns the other copy. The other option is this: it's one card, but the second you add it to your deck, it takes up 2 slots. That one's a little I think that one's cleaner. Amazing. That one's a bit cleaner, I think, in terms of like the deck building idea and stuff, and you're still at 12, but it'll maybe a little bit more of a difficulty to implement in game. I don't know how that. I think the first one's easier to implement. The second one seems a bit weirder.
What if it doesn't have to take up 2 slots? What if it is you find a way that you sell the card so that you only have to buy 1 card, but you get 2?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so you find a way that for a single purchase of 6,000 tokens, you get 2 cards, and they have a power couple tag.
I got you. Yeah.
And then you can choose to play them individually, albeit obviously worse. But you could also just play them together, and then the rest of the deck builder and user interface would just stay streamlined.
I think from their perspective, though, as much as I would like it to be the second or third options that we've stated, I think the first one is the most natural and makes the most sense from a game mechanic perspective, because the other two might be just confusing to players.
Yeah.
Because if you tell them you can go buy this card and it gives you 2 cards, that might be weird for people to understand. Whereas if you just tell them at the start of the game on this card text, it like a copy of this card is shuffled in, and then you have the next thing of when either one are played, the other one gets plus whatever, right?
Yep.
That one is a bit easier and more palatable for people because you have cards that do that kind of in Thanos and Haivo. There's a building block,
Right.
But that's what I think. That's what I would expect from them to implement a card like that. That's what makes sense in my brain. I don't think there's really any other way to do it that makes it both make sense flavorfully as well as commercially, I guess, and how you sell it. But I don't know.
What is your character choice then? And remember, it doesn't have to have a romantic theme. It can just be any kind of super duality. Like, is it going to be Wanda's kids? Could they be released as this kind of power up each other? Yeah,
and
Speed is the other guy, right?
Yeah, that was my initial thought. There's also North Star.
We've mind melded.
We are on the same page there. There's also North Star, I think, is their name, and something else. Oh fuck, what is it called? Also, it could be twins. Outside of that, I'm pretty sure. Aren't they twins? Aren't the kids twins?
Yes. Okay. Because Marvel loves the cliche of Wanda was a twin, so she had twins. It's like it's perpetuating.
I mean, there's a story that went around like when I was in high school. I feel like there was a twins, like twin brothers and twin sisters. They married each other's siblings, and they all had twins born.
And then genetically, their kids would be siblings, they're officially cousins. They're legally cousins, but they're genetically siblings, right? Is the idea because they were
and I'm just like, this is because all the twins looked exactly the same too. So I'm just like, this is the worst experience ever. How do you know who's who? And I'm sorry,
you don't.
Side note, for those of you that are parents or like anyone that's a parent to 2 twins, and they're like, I can absolutely tell them like perfectly apart. When they're infants, I doubt it. I'm sorry. I just kind of doubt it. I feel like
you think that people get mixed up at one point. The name changes over. I think
once you reach a certain age, and you start to be able to speak for yourself, and you say, "I'm this person. I'm this person." Then you're definitively those people. But maybe It's swapped a few times along the way. I'm just saying. I don't think it's very.
Oh man!
Like I find it hard, unless it's
Also, shout
a
out to
boy
the
and a girl.
parents, and I've met plenty of them. I have no idea how this happens, but twins that are named similarly, it's like, really, y'all didn't
Aiden
have
and
a different
Braden,
name. You're like, didn't have the creativity to come up with a different name. You're like, just a different vowel sound within the same
right?
name. Like, that's gonna be
Or
terrible.
just put a different letter in front.
Yeah, that
Tim
one.
and Tom,
It's
baby. Let's do that.
man.
So
We
stupid.
do know. I mean, if they implement like what I said earlier of like an Avengers or an X-Men
Mm-hmm.
power couple tag, that could be just like outside of normal card releases, and I think would be fascinating if they try and implement this through a normal card release avenue. We're looking at least 3 or 4 months out at this point because of the data mines that we've seen have not hinted at this at all. So it could even be
I don't.
tied to the new game mode. They're talking about trying to
Oh
theorycraft by the
yeah.
end of the year. There could be a separate mode that really capitalizes on lore friendly team synergies,
Oh,
and
that'd
that
be
becomes just
great.
its own thing. We don't know.
I
Let us
like
know in the
playing that.
comments what you might be most responsive to, and we can try and signal amplify up to the devs because the devs have been very responsive to the community. Maybe this is something where we can shape a little bit of Snap.
Well, before we go on to our big portion of the show, let's talk
Power
about.
ranking.
Yeah, we're going to be ranking some cards, by the way. We alluded to this last week when I was saying I believe Omega Red is now number 9 and Miss Marvel is probably number 10 for top 10. We're going to go do the top 10 after this. But we've also just decided, you know what, let's take it one step further. Let's do a tier list of all the cards. Now, today we will be starting with starter 1 and 2 as far as the series go.
Yep.
And we'll do those. And then you'll watch this tier list grow and grow. Next week we'll do series 3, and the week after we'll do series 4 and 5, and then probably
imagine we'll have to do greatest hits to put the S tiers against each other.
Yeah, we'll have to, once it's all said and done. Please don't yell at us about order within the tiers as we go. We'll do that probably the last episode that we're doing this, so probably the third one or fourth one.
What is the creme of the crust?
Right. Yeah.
And
like,
is Cull Obsidian the creme of the crust? I think he's been great.
He has been great. He has a lot more homes than you would think. Then just beyond, does he go in Thanos and does he go in Zoo? I've played him in decks that, like, here's my thing. Just like Zabu, where I say you typically want minimum 3 4-drops to make the most use of Zabu, I think you want minimum 3 1-drops to make him as consistent as possible. Of course, if you can play a deck with more than that, that's fantastic. But I think if you just have a deck that naturally plays 3 1-drops and you just kind of, the deck does whatever it wants from there, that's enough. It doesn't have to be a Zoo deck. Like like I was playing just Nebula, Zero, and Electra in a deck with Zabu that was running Atuma, this card, and like some other, like Shang-Chi and like Super Giant kind of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Nebula, when you want to play armor anyway with Cull, is perfect. That's just like lock that lane up, baby, for very cheap.
Ooh, and another one I did, and it was a cool idea, and I loved it. Needs some more fine tuning, right? But you know what's another deck that wants to run 3 1-drops?
I mean, High Evolutionary is this
exactly? So that's what I did. I did High Evo, but I did the A-Bomb version. With She-Hulk and Scar instead of Big Hulk.
And Daredevil?
We did not do Daredevil. We
plus
did not
2,
do
baby,
the power
plus
couple.
2.
Yeah, we didn't do the power couple. But it worked really well. Now, I felt like maybe Scar was a bit too much gravy on top kind of thing. You know, like it was, it worked sometimes. Other times I was like, I'm just not playing the Scar. Like it was really hard to get the nuts where you can get like all of them down in a game, like all the big ones: Cull, A-Bomb, She-Hulk, Scar. It's really hard to get all 4 down.
Yeah.
But if you can get 2 of them down consistently, which Scar was, I think Scar is relevant enough in the deck because if you get Cull sitting down on 4, then you can get Scar down on 5, and then you can have A-Bomb or whatever. It just fit it worked great. It did Luke Cage hazmat stuff too. It had the thing in it. It was focusing on like the affliction style of it. It felt pretty good. It's not quite there. To have to play with it. Maybe Scar's not the play, and you just do one other lower cost thing to really help with that affliction idea. But otherwise, I was very pleased with the results.
Just cross your fingers. Mobius is not real. He can't hurt you.
Right. Yeah, we've gotten hosed by Mobius a few times trying that on stream. It happens, but I mean, Black Swan suffers the same thing.
No, yeah, she definitely does. I think that Mobius is in a he's hit a sweet spot now after having been just everywhere. Now he's in a good spot. So
because there's a genuine cost to playing him because you lose tempo as a 3/3.
I've been thinking about Cull, and I'm like, he's in very much a sweet spot as well. Like, I definitely don't think he needs a buff. If anything, it's a nerf.
But I wish he was a 9.
A card like this, the 9 doesn't make it better though. Aren't you on the side of 9's better than 10?
I am. Yeah.
If it could be a 9 and avoid the Shang, it makes it incredibly effective. Though it does lose the synergy with Scar then.
Right.
So you have a little bit more trade-off now than before Scar existed. Before Scar existed, it was like just a blanket. Obviously, is better as 9. If it came all the way down to 8, are you unhappy?
Well, at that point, it's directly competing with Crossbones, and I would still argue it's certainly better than Crossbones.
Yeah. It's now, also let me ask you this. Directly competing with Gladiator? Or 0 plus Gladiator together?
No, Gladiator being a 3 cost will make him by default better than Cull, even though Cull, like the costs are two different things. One, you need Cull to be able to be played alongside a 1-drop either the same turn or have a 1-drop already established, and you have to play it in that lane.
What if they took away the same turn thing?
Then he's significantly worse. The amount of times...
But is he still playable?
He's still playable, but the idea of like my thing of like having a minimum 3, I think no longer is functional because 3 lets you see a 1-drop eventually that game, so you can play him on the turn that you have a 1-drop, like on 5, for example. Yeah, he would definitely only be a zoo card if they took away the staging of a 1 cost on the same turn. And
or Thanos or Bounce. I mean, he has like those are his core homes, right? The Bounce has been thriving with him. It's his Bounce junk deck that both KM and Lambie are on is running the top of the table.
And I mean, just having access to Sentry as a 4/10, this is as a 4/10, it feels really good. But yeah, I like where he's at now because it gives more opportunity for other homes beyond just the basic ones. I've been trying him in Zukula. I've really, really liked him in Zukula. Strong Guy has actually impressed me, by the way, in Zukula. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I've seen that deck. It pops.
But yeah, I don't know if it's going to be the next Gladiator-esque type of card, but it's hard to recommend him, but I also, my gut screams and tells me if you pass on him, you might regret it in like a month.
No, yeah, I think
that's
he's definitely
the vibe I get from him.
I think he's definitely worth it. And the question, now I've been posing it to people who ask, like, hey, should I get it? Is like, how much do you love discard? Because discard's getting 2 new toys in a row. If you really love discard and you got to get those, get them, avoid here so that you save on your budget because budgets are getting really strained right now. If you don't care too much about discard, you see that as a little more niche, then definitely take Cull because you want him, take a break, and then we got bangers coming out, which we reviewed last episode. If you guys want to go back and hear the data mines, they are wild, wacky, and me and Brad both agree that some of them cannot exist in their current states. If they do, we will lose our minds.
Yeah, I would be terrified of the state of Marvel Snap if what is it? White Widow is one of them. That one's scary. But yeah, that's Cull. Hopefully you're able to pick him up. And also, by the way, to piggyback on Teddy's point about how much you like discard, right now with his current stats, the way he's played, he's a 4 cost, interacts with Zabu well. You can stage the 1 cost with him on the same turn. It makes him way more flexible in what decks he goes in, where discard decks are just the only ones really playing these other ones. We'll talk about Corvus next week, and I've already said I think he's a good ramp deck with like Hell as a top end, but otherwise...
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it Corvus next week or is it Proxima?
It's Corvus, right? Proxima is the week after. So, all right, moving on. Now, Teddy, if you could be so kind, because of course, there is one list here. Also, let's first off this S, A, B, C, D, F. Do we think there are any F tier cards in the game? Let me ask you that first. Is there a single F tier? Like F is it's you need to hit the panic button. It is so bad. It needs a rework. It needs a buff. It needs anything. It is unplayable.
It's very, very few. I think that the developers have done a pretty good job of keeping almost every card functional, at least in some world, especially with some of the revivals recently of High Evolutionary, breathing new life into a whole suite of cards. You've got some that I'm going to probably lobby to be that low, but I imagine we're going to see a lot of C and D. Well, we're going to see a lot of B, but
a good game should have it should be a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
The least amount here, and then it kind of it has a nice shape to it. So Teddy's gonna be the kind person here, and he's because this is the only list I could find that had all the cards up to date with their current stats, except for Gambit. Again, I see as a 3-3-1, not a 3-3. Electra's a 1-1, not a 1-2. But we will be able to correct that as we go.
Yeah.
We'll be able to make note of that. But it has at least the entire thing, all the way up to Supergiant, even Proxima and Corvus, which we would just say.
Snap catalog getting kind of heavy, guys. It's looking like a real card game, baby.
Right. So, like I said, we're starting with the starter, Series 1 and 2 for this episode, and we're saving 3 for next week, and the week after is 4 and 5, and then the next episode after that, we will organize our top 10. So, Teddy, what is the first card in the starter pile? Whatever.
Well, if we want to go alphabetical, we can go with A-Bomb. Is there any organization in what you're looking at in front of you?
It's alphabetical, but hold on. Where's Abomination?
I don't see my man. You got Agent 13 there. We could definitely go with her.
But then there's Agatha down here.
Ooh, I saw it. Bottom, down. This is gonna be there we go, by Warpath. And
oh my god, I can't see it.
Yep, by Zero and Zabu. A-Bomb.
Zero and Zabu.
They went to the Z's and then they started over for no reason.
Yeah. Why?
I love it.
All right. Hold on. I gotta scroll this guy all the way up. Jesus.
All right. So A-Bomb, 5'9" vanilla. I think we can only talk about him with incorporating the impact of High Evolutionary. That being said,
my gut says this in the High Evo deck.
Push it down to B. I actually like the other version of High Evo a little bit better, and I'm not the biggest High Evo believer. What do you push too hard on A, or do you think B is?
No, I think you might be right. My thinking is like just because he could potentially be a 1 or a 2-9 or even sometimes a 0-9.
Yeah, that's
his ceiling
awesome.
is very good.
And again, we've said 9 better than 10.
9 is better than 10 in the sense of dodgers against Shang-Chi and stuff. But I will say, if I were to rank High Evo as a deck in these tiers, I'd say High Evo, just basic, like She-Hulk, like Infinite Big Hulk with like magic and stuff, that's A tier.
Yeah.
And then the version A-Bomb goes in is B tier.
Yeah.
So I will concede B tier, and for that reason.
Yeah, and he's definitely the capstone of that version of the deck, and its value really comes from the potential surprise factor that people don't see it nearly as much.
Right.
And with some more unique adaptations here, not many people run Luke Cage. You can abuse that. Let's go into Agent 13. We unfortunately cannot talk about her with the Valentine's Day pairing. She used to be a very desirable agent. Now I would say she's D. Yeah, I do not see this card.
Yeah, I think she should be a 1-3. I think she's, because it's completely random. Maria Hill giving you a guaranteed two cost to play the next turn if you play her on 1 justifies in my mind a 1-2. Yep. This should be a 1-3 because you could get something really bad. You could get a destroyer when you really have no way of turning it off or whatever.
I've been playing this card because of the power couple, and I'm like, man, this is not playable at all. Even like a lot of Loki decks have cut this card, so yeah, D feels good to me. You got America Chavez right there, I think. So this
is the old version, the 2-3 version. I'm gonna also say D.
Ooh, She actually sees more play than Agent 13, incredibly. But yeah, that kind of Brood deck did fall off. And I agree.
Do you think it'd be too good if she was +3 to the top card? Because it's just the
I
top
think it'd be
card.
too swingy. Yeah.
Okay. I
That's
don't know
kind
how
of
you
like,
balance her.
no, it's tough. I mean, you
I
could
think
always.
I don't know. I think the effect is just boring. On top of that,
Yeah, it is. You get into territory of like, do you make it cascade to like hit the top card for this and hit the next card for this, but then you're just a Koye and you want it to be impactful enough. Do you want to show what that card is to the player? So then you get into, you step on Howard
ooh,
the Duck's toes.
you said cascade, and that makes me think of Magic,
Yeah.
and that a cascade effect in this game would be sick. So cascade and Magic,
Oh.
basically, you keep flipping through your cards until you
Yeah, yeah,
hit
yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
What if she was destroy the top card of your deck until you reach a 6-drop, and the 6-drop hits the battlefield?
The 6-drop gets played?
The 6-drop gets played, but every card in between it, you're destroying.
Okay.
Well,
And isn't that just crazy busted in hella? Or like,
is it?
you
I
know,
mean,
any of these decks that
you're not
load up on the
discarding, so you
expensive
don't get to
cards?
reanimate it.
No, no. I would thought you were gonna go with a line of like, if you play the card, she'll give the buff to the top card. When you play that card, it will give a buff to the top card, and so you could
Oh
keep
no,
on
no, no,
playing top
that's
decks.
too convoluted.
I love it though. It's like I think it'd be really cool. But as she is, she's not really cool. We got Angel up there, recently buffed, still really bad. Maybe is this the F?
This is an F for me. It's
Because even
just
his own
really, really
archetype
bad.
doesn't love him.
Okay, I think he should have an additional thing that says
Yep.
like for each card destroyed when he gets triggered. Like I think he should be an end of turn trigger, not an immediate trigger on destroy. So
Okay.
his effect should say at the end of the turn,
Yep.
if any cards were destroyed this turn,
Yep.
fly out of hand or deck, get +1 for each card destroyed this turn.
Okay. Interesting.
So if you
he'd be like the baby
Killmonger and blow
null.
up like a shitload of like cards, he
Sure.
can be like he'd have to be a 1/0 at that point where he flies
Right.
out as
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a 1/6, 1/7. But I mean, at least he'd have a reason to be in your deck, and then you don't want to play him out for value as like you can't play. You never play him. He's stuck in your hand or stuck in your deck.
What if he was just the destroy analog of Meek? Buff and move per
Ooh,
destroy. Because we've seen
maybe.
destroy and discard get a lot of analog cards. I think it'd be fine, and I think it could be fun.
Yeah, I can see that. I like that.
Angela.
2/2. I'm flipping between C and B. I think she still has a place and can be good. Like I think Elsa is very underrated at the moment.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Right. I think Elsa is actually a B tier card to kind of get ahead of things, but I think because it doesn't see play as much, and we're not counting the power couple thing with Sarah.
Yeah,
I think I'm inclined to put Angela in C tier.
I agree with you. It gets elevated to B or even A tier if Glenn himself is playing it. Glenn has an obsession with Angela, guys. I'm telling you. I actually play against him a fair bit on ladder. He's incredible. But with everybody else, with Angela in their hands, they don't have the same magic.
Right.
Ant-Man. I've been enjoying Ant-Man quite a bit in my Zoo deck, but you're going to put over Angela? Is this the underplayed alert here?
He is
solid.
far more consistent than Angela. Angela requires cards to be played around her in a sense. Not necessarily, she's not so much of a build around, but you're probably making a mistake if you're not. She's not just a vanilla good card like she was when she was the +2 thing, where you just put her in any deck and you just happen to play cards on top of her. Now, because she's +1, you need to have a reason to have her in your deck, like a Kitty Pryde. Ant-Man is he's just a 1/4 because it's not hard to fill lanes. And on top of that, when he is in a deck that has synergies with him, like, like a Dazzler, Valkyrie, stuff like that, I think those decks are better on average than Angela decks as it stands right now. So
yeah, fair enough. I think it's so hard to talk about one costs in Snap because their return of power to cost is so much higher than everything else, but you still hit a limit on how many one costs you can fit in the deck, and you have to then start comparing him with all these other like real powerhouses. With everything that he's going to get compared to on this list, I'm good with him in B. Let's go
I
to.
do want to ask first before we continue. I think we should probably give a proper explanation of each tier in our minds.
Yeah.
So people have an accurate representation of what we mean by a. So I think S tier is reserved for probably in need of an adjustment in a downswing eventually. Like old Miss Marvel, right?
Okay.
Was an S tier card in my mind.
Yes.
Current Miss Marvel is an A tier card because I don't feel the need to hit it in any way.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't think I want to just reserve that for that type of thing, because I would put a Nihilus as an S tier card, but I don't think he needs to be adjusted.
Okay.
So
maybe I can clarify a little bit. I say S tier is universally dominant or situationally. I mean, it can be situationally dominant, but just like a very broad application card and very dominant warps play around itself.
Okay.
Alice is a great example. A tier is either universally good or situationally dominant. It's like one or the other. B tier is like situationally good. C tier is very niche to be good. D tier is do not play. F tier is please revive, resuscitate, rework.
To clarify in C and D, I would say C is just like your average cards. Like you can do well with them, sure, they're fine, whatever. D is one of those things where it's like, this is probably where your budgetary replacements lie. Like, I don't have Maria Hill, so I'm going to play Agent 13 kind of thing, right?
Gotcha.
I'm not going to say you're throwing by playing these cards, but there are clear and obvious replacements and upgrades to them.
Okay, yeah. There's probably going to be some of these that we pop down there that still, if you play this card, I'll snap against you just because I saw the card.
Yeah.
We'll see where some of these land. We'll probably agree on those as well.
Okay, hold on. I'm changing F to...
Oh, no. Yeah.
You're a bot on snapping.
That's pretty much don't play these under no circumstance.
If I see Angel, I snap.
Yeah, actually. Now, what about Apocalypse? If you see Apocalypse, do you snap?
Okay, APOC.
He's been through the ringer.
He has, but this card's getting some love.
It is.
Meek is fairly good.
Yep.
And I think in his archetype, because I think the archetype is consistently B, but he's A. Does that make sense?
Oh, really? I would have said that he's B and Dracula is A.
Okay. Well, yeah, you're right. Okay. You know what? I'll give you that because Dracula is the reason APOC is very good. You're not playing him on often. You're okay.
Right.
But I'll say he's top of B. If there's a tippy top of B, I think it's APOC. He's on the brink of being A, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah. Armor definitely B or A. With how much Destroy is out there right now, I think a pretty underrated tech card. With also how much Shang is around. I know that everybody's trying to run Shang themselves, and so they don't necessarily want to give the armor lane, but it's quite good.
I think I would put him there, or her, I guess.
Yeah. The new Dan Hip one is great.
Armor should be A. This is weird. Make no mistake about it. Armor should be A because it should, on paper, just be a great card for your protection, a great offensive card to stop things like Destroy. But in practice, and the way the games kind of play out, and the way you're able to spread out power so efficiently, and the way Destroy, unless they just go like Deadpool, X-23, Wolverine, and they don't do anything until turn 3, and they just way overcommit for a single lane, They're pretty good about overcoming against an armor.
Yeah.
So I think in practice, she is a B tier.
Interesting. And this is to say nothing of the beneficial location interactions of the plethora of destroy locations that she does help with. Um, yeah, no, it seems like the snap meta. It's interesting how the hive mind kind of works on almost a handshake of like, I play big cards and Shang, and I expect you to play big cards and Shang as well. So we'll see who drew their big cards and who drew Shang, rather than go deeper into the tech and counter rabbit hole. So
I think it's one of
I'm
those
good with
things
the
where
B
it's
tier.
like it's getting harder as like these decks get better and better.
Yeah.
Where Shang feels like a card that you need to make a spot for. Armor is
Mm.
a card that you like hope you have the privilege to have a spot for.
Yeah, you have to cut something really good to fit armor in at this
Exactly.
point, which sometimes I do, and I have been. I'll get burned a couple times in a row. Armor's in there, baby. Then I don't play it for a while, and armor's out again.
Yeah.
Bishop. Uh, Bishop C tier, just basically Angela on a 3-bot cost. Like I know they're very different
Right.
effects, but that's basically how I see them.
Bishop's weird because Bishop has the ceiling of being able to get really high
Yep.
and get like be like a 310, 311. Like if like you can make Bishop Shang-Chiable, and that's scary.
Yep.
But Shadow King exists. Shadow King's gone down a bit in
Does
play
he
rate.
exist? I haven't seen him in a
He's
while.
still played in Sarah Control, buddy, and that's a deck
Okay.
that's all over the place. By the way, if you're playing Sarah Control on ladder, I think you should have this girl in that deck as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with C. I agree. Bishop
Okay.
feels like again, there's on paper and then there's in practice. On paper, Bishop feels in my heart of hearts like a B tier card. But
All
in
right.
practice, he's
Yeah.
C.
Yep. You're going to have to go digging for this one. Blade, I'll vamp a little bit and cover because I think Blade is A tier. This update to be able to hit the rightmost card in your hand is incredible. Being able to target his effect is fantastic. And in any version of discard that you're playing, it's good in Hela, it's good in Black Knight, it's good in APOC. To be able to just hit
It's right here.
the target's quote. Oh, there it is, next to Blue Marble. You actually didn't have to fish very hard at all. I threw you on a goose chase.
Yeah,
Brett,
you did.
I didn't
I'm
see
like,
it.
I'm like, he must have not seen Blade. I trust him.
Yeah. Do you agree with A tier here?
Yes, Old Blade was a C tier card.
Yeah.
New Blade is so integral to Black Knight decks, so integral to discard decks in general, so integral to even Zukula that I've been playing a lot lately. It like a lot of these decks don't function, or at least are not anywhere near as consistent as a Blade. How often do you see Black Knight Blade on turn 2, which is the great play you should be doing? Because if you have Black Knight and Blade in hand on one, and you're like, okay, I don't have a big card in my right hand lane yet, I could draw into Infinite right now. Turn
Just
2 rolls
wait.
around, you draw Infinite, you're like,
Pop.
oh snap, and it's just he's so good. Yes, A tier,
Yes.
agreed.
Yep. Blue Marvel. I like.
B?
Here's the thing: is that you're. Yeah, I was gonna say, chat. You guys are listening to a tier list created by people who play Zoo. We like Blue Marvel.
But bottom of B.
Bottom of
I don't
B
think
is
he's C.
fair.
I think I okay. We for those of you who aren't in the Patreon, Teddy and I are going to be doing some bonus content episodes of deep dives and deck discussions.
Yeah.
And one of those we will be talking about will be Thanos. That's going to be the first episode we do. Probably going to be around 30-ish, 40 minutes long. Try to keep it shorter than normal episode. If it ends up being the same length, then whatever, more content for you, I guess. So if you want to hear these kind of things and these extra episodes, join the Patreon, patreon.com/can't stop snapping. And I do think people are a bit too all in on the lockjaw big stuff blob type of Thanos list. I think the classic play a bunch of stones, have Blue Marvel buff everything, maybe ramp into even Professor X on 4 with Psylocke. I think that version's still viable and kind of sneaky good. It's just the blob obsession people had when it came out. They kind of forgot about it. So
I mean, Thanos has got so many different tricks up his sleeve, but yeah, Blue Marvel is just a great.
Talking about the ongoing version with Spectrum too.
Yeah, Blue Marvel is a very good, consistent stat line if you have a low curve deck and if you have anything that's going to spawn multiple tokens. That kind of board fill puts him at a very efficient cost to production. But then the sneaky wins here are that he can lend power to locations that you fill up early. And having the freedom to fill a location early, but then still add power later as needed,
Right.
is what can really unlock those decks with some play patterns that people are not able to counter. So that's where I'm going to put him up in B rather than down in C. I know that he's pretty niche, and part of this is my own deck choosing bias, but I have had great success with my Blarvel. I also still run vanilla Blarvel. I do not have a variant yet, Brad.
You don't have a variant at all?
Yeah,
You didn't
this
even
is
get the zombie one?
no, I didn't buy the zombie one.
Man, I have the zombie one, so I run that, but I have like 4 other
Nice.
variants.
All right. Well, now speaking of a card that I have a killer variant for, but I never play, Bucky Barnes, baby. I've got the Midnight Suns Bucky, the Hanged Man. He is so hard to fit. Even Destroy's cutting this guy. This one's so tough because the card itself somehow is good, but it doesn't play in Destroy. I don't understand. Whenever I think about it, like I don't understand why I'm not running Bucky, and then I try to run Bucky, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to cut Bucky. See,
I think he's bottom of C, top of D. I will give you
yeah,
C though, but he's bottom of C. You think if they made him a 2/7,
yeah.
think that'd be
I
good
think he's right
enough?
on the edge of kind of making. Destroy just has a full arsenal, right?
They have so
Um,
many cards.
yeah, and the play pattern now is really like you want the bodies that buff themselves or regenerate for Venom,
Mm-hmm.
not these I destroyed you and then I got rewarded in a different way. Sabretooth is going to come up at some point in here as well. It's going to be in like a tough spot with Bucky, but I'm pretty good with this. Cable, 3/4. Draw a card from your opponent's deck. Yeah, once Loki cut Cable, it was like it's
Because
over.
he was no longer a
Maybe,
2/2. A 2/2 Cable and Loki specifically was nice. I
yeah.
don't hate a 3/4 Cable. I've liked, like, he's felt good enough in decks where I've played him, but you're not playing him in Loki anymore. So where are you playing it? I don't think this is an issue of the body and the effect being a problem, where maybe he could be a 3/5, but I think it's a very strong effect because you're stealing the card.
No, I like
It's
three
just
five. Yeah.
he doesn't have a home. That's why he's D tier.
Well,
Like,
it's that Coulson eats his lunch because the decks
right.
that would play him want card generation, and Coulson does double card generation. If Cable could take two, maybe you have to bring his power way down, but
Yeah, he has to be like a
then
3/1.
then we're talking, right? I can play either Coulson for power and 2 random cards, or I can play Cable for no power but your cards, and Mill then becomes like at least something.
What if
So
he was
as he is,
what if he was a 5 cost and he said not the top card but the highest cost card in your opponent's deck?
oh, so it's like a, well, wouldn't it be like a white queen, but you take it from the deck instead of a copy from their hand?
Yeah, and you steal it.
Yeah,
So they don't
that'd
have
be
it.
pretty
And that's
sick.
their turn 6 play potentially.
I was gonna say, what if he was what if he was a 5 cost and then he just like, I don't know, took their whole deck or something at
Yeah,
that point,
sure.
right?
Fuck
Like,
it.
don't give, yeah, I don't know. He's tough. He's rough in a rough spot now. Captain America also in a rough spot if he doesn't have the power couple tag.
Oh my
Three
god.
three, especially after they buffed Punisher. It's like, why would you ever play this boy?
I
I was playing a little bit of Punisher for a brief moment after Gladiator burned me one too many times. I started playing Punisher because his stat line, it was in a meta where everybody was filling locations anyway, and so
right.
it was like for 1 point less, I get never burned on pulling cards that hurt me. I go D, like
Yeah,
it's
cuz like, again, I wish I could put him C, but then you compare to what the rest of C is so far, and it's hard to, like, I think he's better than everything else in D so far. Um,
yeah, but he still never gets
I'd
played.
I'd maybe put Chavez above Agent 13,
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, whatever.
Carnage, gotta go
Uh,
B tier here, I think.
yeah, he's probably like right behind APOC, I think, in B
Yeah,
tier, because he's
Vi-
like, he's fine and you're happy to play him and destroy, and you do it out of necessity essentially, right?
yep.
um but you're sometimes sad that you don't have the venom instead, you know.
Oh yeah, the update to Venom making him a 3/3 instead of that 3/1 is like, ooh, I really just wanted Venom instead.
Right.
Cloak. Remember when Cloak would get played just for the stat line, Brad?
I do remember.
How far we've come. It was like, and then you include Cloak because he's a 2/4. And now it's like, you never play Cloak.
Is this too harsh?
No. Move
Because
is in a bad spot.
I think it's the fact that it's symmetrical that hurts him. If he was asymmetrical and it was only for you, the move player, because like letting my opponent move, it's like, yeah, in certain scenarios, I'm gonna move like, either like a Human Torch or like a dagger, and it's like the power up what I'm gonna put there is gonna be massive. But I'm
Yeah, it's when
telegraphing
like
where they're gonna
Craven is
go.
there, right? When
Right.
Craven is a dissuading factor for the Cloak, that's kind of what you need. Otherwise, especially because Doctor Strange got cheaper, that's move on command. That's move that same
Right.
turn he's
You're not
played, whereas Cloak is a
telegraphing it.
turn delayed. And I think that's what, to me, really holds him back even more so than being symmetrical. The fact that it's a turn later that you get to make these move combos.
Yep. But he's
Talking
better than
about
Captain America,
moving
so.
or not moving, man, my segues are going to get worse, guys. I'm sorry. Colossus, 2/3, cannot be destroyed, moved, or have his power reduced. He's just like,
I think I like him more than Agent
yeah.
13.
Wow. Wow. Going D
Because at
tier.
least I
Yeah,
can
that's
play him
fair.
on like Death's Domain, and I'm like, cool. Look at that.
Yeah, it's for some specific hot locations, he'll hop into the deck and then right back out.
How would you fix Colossus? Because I think his ability is good. His ability is
This
actually
is,
really good, but it's just
yeah,
the body is so unimpactful. His peers at 2 costs are just like, for the stats that he's providing. You could just have Jeff do the same thing he's going to do. The only difference is I have to play Jeff in advance. But then on top of that, Jeff gets
no,
into
that's
other locations like Sanctum where he
that's
doesn't.
literally what it has to be. Is he is Jeff, but in an inverse of ability, he has to be playable everywhere.
Right.
If he had that, he can't be moved, whereas Jeff can move. That's like the coin side of the coin. Do you want the flexibility of the move from Jeff, or do you want the invincibility of Colossus? And you could pick there, and that's the only thing. And it would be a huge change,
I think
right?
he should be like a 5 or like a 4 or 5.
That's way too good. It's also a case of some of these cards are just not meant to be good. They're meant for
You're
players
right.
to move on. And Colossus is unfortunately one of them, especially for fans of him as a character, which, yeah, that's how it happened. And maybe this is a chance where a power couple tag could revitalize him later. That could be the other thing, is you tack on an additional ability with a new synergy in the future. So some of these cards that are at the bottom, maybe they don't change. Maybe just something in the game changes around them to elevate them.
Yeah.
Cosmo and Evergreen in some metas would have been S tier, and has somehow, without being changed himself, I think has dropped all the way down to B. You going A?
I have him in C.
You have what? No way.
Top
Okay,
of C.
you cannot put Cosmo in C tier. You have to at least put Cosmo in B tier. The good doggo, you're not doing this to our
I
boy.
love Cosmo. I love
You know
Cosmo.
you're not showing it, Brad.
Hold on. I love Cosmo. I've been playing him a lot lately in a lot of
Yep.
different decks. Because I've been trying out a lot of Destroyer decks. And of course, Cosmo is a great boy with Destroyer. And a lot of
That's your
games
problem.
with Destroyer and Armor, I won a lot of games, not from playing Destroyer in my cards, just from denying my opponent on reveals or armor for whatever.
Thank you.
With that being said, I think the game of Snap is starting to move a bit beyond Cosmo in the sense that him being a 3/3 is what hurts him. I think it's time for a 2-cost Cosmo. Because look, Cosmo's not a global effect. Cosmo's not a global effect.
Right.
So theoretically, it doesn't need to be tied to a 3/3. Also, a global effect Cosmo would be broken. That'd be horrible.
No,
for the
please,
game.
never.
But a 2-cost Cosmo puts it
I
in
you
line
might
with
go
armor,
3/4.
like a single lane kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think we're at that point. Like, again,
Wild.
Even with Hela everywhere, even with Destroy everywhere, I never sit there and go like, it's time to bring out the Cosmo. I just think I'd rather bring out Shadow King or Shang-Chi just to deal with what they
That's
do.
the thing,
or
is you could
Mobius.
just play another like control 3/3.
Yeah, Mobius is a global effect. Cosmo, you have to snipe the correct lane, and they can just play the auto reveal in a different lane, right? And 3 is such a hard point to be able to, like, 3 is, it's early enough to where you might miss, and they haven't established their Wong yet, for example. But then holding him late to be able to snipe the Wong and wait for where they play it, the 3 makes that awkward. A 2 would fix that idea a lot. It makes you establish a lane early of, like, you can't do on reveals here, and I'll force you to pigeonhole over there, or you can hold it and snipe a card later. I think it's time for Cosmo to be a 2/2.
Wow. All right. I will entertain that Cosmo could be buffed and it could be good, but let it be noted that I would rather see him in B tier. Cyclops 3/4. Let's move, X-Men. Remember when the only time you would see him is when you typed move in the game, and then he would randomly appear because of his flavor text?
Right
Now he's actually very good with high evolutionary. I mean, you got to go A tier. Now this is,
I
of
think,
course, with the caveat, has to be with
yes,
high evolutionary. It's that version of the card. If you're playing him without, don't. Have you considered not?
Agreed.
He's not good in Patriot. He's
not good
on his own.
Surfer
Or Surfer. I played him for the briefest moment when Surfer was so broken that you could play Patriot Surfer together, and that was brilliant.
Right. Yeah.
The deck was so straightforward.
I mean, you still
Eddie
could,
Wife
but the reason you would now is doing the Iron Lad, Brood, Absman stuff with Forge.
Yeah.
Not him.
And you'd still stay away from the Cyclops. Deathlock.
Right.
3/5. Reveal, destroy your other cards here. Deathlock been a little bit of a resurgence, I must say. Little renaissance for him, putting him up there with Carnage.
Yeah, I think
same
worse
tier
than Carnage,
but lower down.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Because I think Carnage has the ceiling. Again, it's a 2 cost, easier to weave in the stuff. It's really good on curve as well. So is Deathlock, of course. That's why it's in B tier. But I'll put it this way. If that Venom change that they tease, where Venom becomes a 4 or 5 happens, Deathlock might be right next to Carnage or even above Carnage, because now he's the definitive 3 cost destroy, but he's competing with Venom. If I have a hand with Venom and Deathlock in my hand,
Venom change feels like I feel the same about Venom as I did before the change. Now, obviously, you bring Deathlock right. even way more in with Nimrod tricks, but yeah, the curve is very straightforward.
Right. But again, because Deathlock is competing directly with Venom, makes him feel worse in that sense, because you're always choosing Venom over that. Yes. And there are certain times where, if even on 3, and you have Carnage and Deathlock in hand, you might be playing the Carnage with a 1-drop or something instead, because you want to keep that Deadpool going or establish the X-23 to make a better turn 4.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you play the Deadpool, you eat him, and then the next turn you play Deadpool and Deathlock, and then you play bigger Deadpool and Venom, and then you win the game because you're Destroyer. Destroyer just is allowed to do this while nobody else is. Anyway, Devil Dinosaur, 5/3, one of the most changed cards in all of Snap, still reigning supreme. Oops. I mean, you gotta go. Do you go B tier or do you put him up in A? He's in some of the very best decks, right? He's in Loki. He's in Thanos, like the most meta versions, but he's so vulnerable to control that he himself doesn't feel like the best. He's like the plan B for both of those decks.
Correct. But he's one of the best plan Bs in the entire game.
True. His stat line is insane, guys, what he's able to do for 5 cost, and then that, like, quote unquote, no downside to you. If you're looking at, like Doc Ock 5/10, but you're pulling cards, you're looking at these other cards that are barely over exchange. But yeah,
you're telling your opponent, like, honestly, if you play Devil Dino on 5, you're kind of just ignoring that lane most likely for that final turn, and you're like, deal with them. I'll go over here.
Right. You play your Shang, and I'll play my power cards elsewheres. Yeah. Doctor Strange 2/3. He's like a good move card. The problem is that move is so bad, he's also bad. And the fact that he only moves the highest power card, I always thought that I'd be so big brain that I might be able to play some funky dodges of the Shang. That's never panned out for me. So I think C is totally fair for him.
I mean, I'm trying to think of comparatively, right? Because you look at Cloak, I do think Cloak is better than the cards behind him in D tier. But I don't think Doctor Strange is on the same level as Cloak. I think it's a step above.
Yeah, for sure. I have seen like that. It's basically the Phoenix Force deck. It makes some good use of Doctor Strange.
Right.
I've seen some very clever like move out of armor or Cosmo restrict, and it's like a get out of jail card to still let them hit their combos. So he's got some applications and can be quite fun. Also, very fun animation. I do like the idea that Wong should be his ability and his ability should be Wong. But anyway, Domino, also 2/3. Is this our next You're a Bot? I'm snapping. It is the card that I snap when I see it, so I think it is
It's
down there.
better than Angel.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I still snap as soon as I see it.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Ebony Maw, 1/7.
I don't think you can change this card much.
No, it's locked at what it is.
Ebony Maw, it's not in the same realm as D tier, but it's not much better.
No,
so I think C is fine.
Remember, guys, we are filthy zoo players. We love these cards.
Yeah,
but we're probably going to give it more love than some other rankers would.
But again, comparatively, Ebony Maw to like what D tier is showing, I can at least play Ebony Maw in ramp, for example. I like him in ramp. Turn 1 Ebony Maw, and then I can even turn 2 Jeff on that lane, say, here's 10 power, and then I can, do my ramp stuff with Electro. I can do like, Zola stuff to send stuff into that lane later. Doctor Doom, of course. Doctor Doom into Odin. So like, I think he's perfectly fine in those. But he's not, he gets cut pretty easily from those lists. And if that's the best place he can be played, besides, I mean, even sometimes like Shuri doesn't play him and Sauron is the best card for him and Zero's great for him. The problem is the fact that Zero can't get around his after turn 3 thing just only kills Sauron. It. Yeah, so he is a card that you play as a great replacement for cards you might be missing, but he's one of the first cuts. So
yeah, fair enough. And now the card that's the bane of his existence, Electra.
Who cares?
Everybody in the community would care. Electra, 1/2, kills a 1 cost. How high up do you put the Electra? You were just saying you really like her. That's all right. Brad's going generous on this one. I think she's still C tier, but
yeah, you're argument? Right. She's C tier. I want to see if I can get away with it. She's underneath Cosmo. Cosmo's more applications. Yeah. But honestly, I will put her above Bishop and Angela because of how the meta is right now. Sniping anything from High Evo, sniping Black Knight. And for those of you that say, but Killmonger, you can get this down faster than Killmonger, and there are times where Kyera comes down, armor comes down, and you're like, wow, Killmonger makes me sad.
That's the thing, is that you get it faster than the armor or the Kyera if you need it, potentially, and so if your meta pocket is a lot of Black Knight or High Evo, the Electra is a good thing to go to. Enchantress, 4/5, so hard to rank
top
with how much
B.
Yeah.
I don't think she's quite A tier.
No.
Her counterpart in Shang-Chi is going to be, S. Is he S?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, her counterpart in Rogue is where?
C.
Her counterpart in Rogue is lower? Ooh.
Yes. Because
I flip those quite often because I like the cheaper cards, actually.
I mean, I play Zabu every time I play Enchantress. I almost never play her without a Zabu in the deck, or especially a Sarah Control. You're playing Zabu and Sarah. A 2-cost Enchantress feels really good, especially when you don't have priority. Your opponent flips up a Null, for example, against Destroy. You Enchantress the Null, you Shang-Chi the Venom, you Shadow King the Deadpool, and you're just like, I gotcha. So top of B.
All right, Forge. 1/1 on reveal. Give the next card you play +2 power. I mean, this guy's, is he S or is he A?
He's A.
Okay.
I don't think he's quite. I mean, he's so close to being S. He's so close to being the first S card.
He's such a catalyst for the biggest high roll decks. He's very close to S.
He's not the reason you play these decks, though. He is just a symptom of how good they are.
He's in Bounce. He's in Destroy. He's in Phoenix Force.
If Forge didn't exist, Bounce and Destroy would still exist. You don't just stop playing the decks.
Yes. But he's like the reason that they're cutting other synergistic
You're
cards. But
absolutely
I
correct.
hear you. I hear you. A tier. All right. Gamora with the beautiful Conquest variant this season, 5/7 on reveal. If your opponent played a card here this turn, +5 power.
Couldn't
Man,
find her.
hard to rank this girl.
She's either, I mean, because like when she feels good, she feels good. But when you miss, she doesn't feel good. When there's a Cosmo there, she doesn't feel good. When you don't have priority and there's an Alioth potentially coming down, because she's just as often a 6 drop as she is a 5 drop if she's in your deck. So I think for those reasons, I probably put her like in the middle of C.
Yeah. Are you on the train of Spider-Woman strictly better?
Ooh. Yeah, because I don't care about okay. Gamora, I care about like them playing a card and being able to snipe it. I just care about with Spider-Woman, there are cards there.
Right.
So I would say that, because also the swing and power at their ceiling is the same. Spider-Woman is also a 5/12.
Yes.
And that's actually that's not even on her ceiling. Well, I guess they're the same if they both hit like Kamar-Taj or Wong. So
yeah. And then we've got Groot, 3/4 on reveal. If your opponent played a card here this turn, +2 power. This guy's the D tier, or is he all the way at bot?
He's D tier.
Do you snap on Groot? I kind of snap on Groot, honestly.
I think I would put all the Guardians towards the bottom of D. Like I think there's
fair enough.
We've seen W do well with the Guardians deck before. He ends up kind of cutting all the Guardians after he plays with them first, and then you just suck with Gamora, and that's like maybe Star-Lord as well. But I think all the Guardians should get one more power.
On the ability or on the base?
I don't care.
Okay.
Either one.
I mean, making him a 3/5 with the upside is like pretty good.
Yeah, it should probably be on the ability.
Though honestly, I mean, listen, if Gladiator is a card, what if Groot was a 3/5 +3? Make him get that 3/8. I mean, it kind of leaned into the heart of Snap, which is that guessing on the simultaneous turn. Maybe that's too oppressive. I mean, somebody out there is going to say why immediately that's broken, but on its face, it's like, listen, they're letting other cards at crazy power levels for the same cost go.
Right.
So, Hawkeye, 1/1 on reveal. If you play a card at this location next turn, +3 power to himself. A new bounce mainstay. Hawkeye been very fun. Do you go B tier or do you go all the way up to A?
I'm going to say B. I'm going to say...
Okay.
Probably in this area.
His problem is he's just a little slow for bounce. Bounce honestly wants to play cards and return them on the same turn now, rather than play cards and return them on the next turn. Like old bounce was like on this cycle of I'd set up, recall, and now it's like play, pop, play, pop, play, pop.
Also, can I just say, I'm so glad you opened the conversation with B or even A, so I don't look like the crazy person, because I thought you were going to be like C or B, and I was going to be like, B? Gotcha. I think B? But you went straight to A, so it made my B feel way more comfortable.
Yeah.
I love Hawkeye. I think, he's a 1/4. There's only 2 1/4s in the game, and they're right next to each other. Ant-Man and Hawkeye. They can go in different decks or in the same deck. I like Hawkeye. I like him. Okay, one of my favorite plays, which you know this, and that my Infomaniac deck is Hawkeye into Adam Warlock, and that so often you just draw a card and you're happy. You're so happy, and then you just beast, pick him up. I'll make him big somewhere else. Like, I love Hawkeye. I think he's a really, really underrated card. Same with Ant-Man. I think these are 2 of the most underrated 1-drops in the entire game that should be played more. Nebula is fantastic. Sunspot is fantastic. Those are great, great, great cards. But Nebula on 5 feels bad. Hawkeye on 5 or Ant-Man on 5, I'm okay with it. It's a 1/4. Look at that.
Yep. Stats are stats.
For that, actually,
Heimdall.
I think I'm going to have to do this. I think...
Oh, fair enough.
Just Ant-Man being a play on turn 6 as an option.
Yep.
Where Hawkeye's not. Even though the ceiling of Hawkeye with bouncing him and picking him back up and something like that, Ant-Man's just a bit more consistent. But next card.
Fair. Heimdall, 6/9. On reveal, move your other cards one location to the left. We've talked at length on this podcast on how you might be able to save Heimdall. Brad wants you to be able to pick which direction the cards go. I want him to be a 5 cost. He's either D or F. I mean,
he's the top of D.
Yeah, fair.
All right. Compared to these cards, he's better than all of them. Because he can actually win you
9
games.
Power, stat line. Yeah. No, sure. Honestly, his best application is randomly in your deck, and then you just surprise them with the Heimdall to steal cubes. Like Nick Fury creating Heimdalls will rob 8 cube victories all day.
I think bottom of C.
Wow.
Hear me out. Same reason for looking at Doctor Strange comparatively to Cloak.
Okay.
Right? I don't think Heimdall
I'm just trying to gauge it for people watching me. I'm trying to figure out what the highest rated move card is going to be. Right now it's Doctor Strange. And I'm just trying to figure out if I'm going to agree with it. Because I played a lot of move back in my day.
Phoenix Force is probably going to be the highest rated move card.
Well, yes. It depends on how you categorize that one, but it surely will be.
But I think Heimdall is the epitome of an average card.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's below average. I think he's just average that you probably should not be playing, but I'm not going to hate you for playing him.
Yeah. No, for sure.
These are all below average.
Hobgoblin? 5 minus 8.
Ooh, I'm going to over now. B?
He's just so niche and situational. But yeah, I'll give it because in his situations, he is dominant.
I would put Green Goblin
a little bit.
much higher. I would argue Green Goblin could be A potentially in the decks that you're playing it. But probably top of B would be Green Goblin when we get there. But Hobgoblin's bottom of B.
Hulk, 6/12.
Is this an S?
Hulk smash. No, I put him up there with Cyclops, honestly. There's so many times where this high evolutionary deck wants to play Hulk on 6, but because then they're locked into only adding power on one lane, you're like by default going to overcommit.
Mm-hmm.
The big brain plays on like how you pilot that deck, understanding your turn 6 is locked up on this 120 power is huge.
To play devil's advocate, for potentially arguing for S tier.
Okay.
I don't think the high Evo deck, when it comes to the magic, Infinite She-Hulk thing, I don't think it's remotely even close to being as good of a deck as it is without Hulk.
But you have the Infinite She-Hulk, man. You could just play
Rule 3, baby.
You can play like the Thing, or you could even play A-Bomb in that deck instead, right?
Yeah, but then A-Bomb is less likely to be cost reductive. But yeah, I guess you could more confidently weave a turn 6 play with She-Hulk and A-Bomb.
I'm not going to put him as... I do know
I'm okay with him right behind Forge. I think Forge's application is better than Hulk's. But just for content purposes, saying my piece for why he could be.
Yeah. Hulk Busta. This is the new one. I've been so torn on where to put this guy. 2/3. He still feels really good. Just not quite as swingy as he used to be. What are your feelings, Brad, on new Hulkbuster? They have old Hulkbuster. They have the 3/4. He was a 3/5 and now he's a 2/3.
It's only really a card that goes in Destroy. Like, you see it other places, sure. But...
But in Destroy, it is so good.
I mean, I would put it along the side of Deathlock. Like, you're happy to play it where it's solid.
Yeah.
And also, after consideration, I'm going to put Goblin in C tier.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because looking at Cosmo, looking at Elektra, I'm just like, yeah, I think that's where he lives. B's a bit overzealous, I would admit. Yeah, Green Goblin's B, Hobgoblin C.
Iceman 1/2. He used to be the 1/2 him and Scorpion punch.
Yeah.
On reveal, give a card in your opponent's hand +1 cost, max of 6. There he is, right next to Human Torch and the Infinite.
I'm blind.
Man,
he's probably B. Because okay,
Yeah,
let's
he
compare him to
probably
Electra.
is.
Let's start with
I'm sorry,
Electra.
guys. I was holding back saying that he's an S tier card because I mean
I
it's just
love him.
sneaky how strong he
I
is.
want him in A.
Yeah, we gotta go
I
B.
would kill if he was S. Okay, if he was like Ham, where it showed what he hit, S tier,
Yeah.
no question in my mind.
Yes. Yes.
But because you don't know, until you see that Swarm get discarded, that's a 3, or you see Black Cat get discarded, that's a
That's the
5.
worst dang feeling because
Yeah,
then the updates are all free and you're like, my Iceman was for naught. For
exactly.
naught.
I
All right.
think B.
Iron Fist.
C.
Case for one of the best move cards. He's got to be just
Still
like
a move
next to
card.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, he's better than
And he
Doctor
also has to
Strange.
be under Ghost Spider. So
Yeah, I think Ghost Spider is a
yeah,
B tier card, very bottom of B
yeah,
when we get there. But
yeah.
Iron Fist is a C tier card.
Iron Man 5-0 ongoing. Your total power is doubled here. I thought Renslayer might show a little bit more resurgence, and with Pixie coming out, who knows what Iron Man's gonna do? We're going
Don't
A
care.
tier.
He's an A
You
tier.
are insane. He's a
I
B
am
tier card.
standing firmly in this. I am firmly
What am I
grasping A
looking
tier with
at?
Iron Man. Iron Man has stood the test of time just like Devil Dinosaur, one of the premier 5-drops in the entire game, has incredible archetypes to build around him. Negative, he's an automatic include. Living Tribunal is automatic include. If you're trying
Yeah.
to do anything wonky with ongoing stuff in general, he's almost always in them. Sans Thanos, because Thanos has some other things it wants to be doing based on its game plan. Iron Man is one of the most well balanced cards in the game, has one of the most powerful effects in the games, and frankly, Living Tribunal is not a deck without Iron Man. I am standing.
No, it's not.
It is not even close to being even remotely playable as a deck without this card. He's not as good as Devil Dino, but look at the other cards behind him on B.
Yep.
In the decks where you play Iron Man, he is necessary, absolutely needed in those decks more often than not. Where all those other cards in B, maybe you can make the argument for Apocalypse, and I guess maybe Carnage as well. But Carnage and Deathlock have comparative things that you're comparing them to, like Venom, right? Or Null, Death. Like all these other cards are really important. Iron Man has no competition, has nothing like him. There's no other option. There's no substitute for Iron Man.
Not in Living Tribunal specifically, but that Living Tribunal deck is fine. The Mr. Negative deck I think is bad.
Yes, but
that's the thing.
But
it's like
Iron Man is what makes it a cube
playable
stealer
at all. Yes,
right?
yes, true. Like him alone is the workhorse.
Also, C3, he's amazing in with Bast.
Yes, Bastrix. Even
or
though Bounce
Valkyrie
now seems
I
to be
think
playing more
C3
junk
is also a
than
significantly
Iron Man.
worse deck without Iron Man. Like C3, I think is like a B tier deck. Without Iron Man, it's a C tier deck.
Interesting. I might rank it lower overall. I'm just a hater, I guess. I'll give you bottom of A tier. Man, it's tough though. But yeah, being an OG that's never been changed, definitely one of the best designed cards in Snap. That
Right.
100%.
And
its little sister, Ironheart, 3-0. Give 3 of your other cards +2 power. Plays in some of the same decks as Iron Man.
yes,
What's Brad gonna go here? I gotta go low, right?
Yeah.
It hurts. I was trying her in Renslayer and I cut her for Morph of all things, which is going to be a very funny discussion. But I agree. Yeah, somewhere in the middle of C.
I would say a bit better than these on average. I think these are just to hedge it a little bit. So yeah, I think middle C feels right.
Yep. Jessica Jones 4/5 on reveal. If you don't play a card at this location next turn, +4 power. Really interesting to evaluate given that Cull Obsidian has now come into the game. JJ at the 9 power is exactly what you want to see from your forecast.
Right.
And then the ability is so easy to trigger. She can't be played on turn 6, but small price to pay.
I think towards the top of B. I don't think she's quite A. Because I think any sign of power creep she's just gone from the lockdown deck because that's really her only home at the moment.
Yes.
So
Storm into
she's
JJ
on thin ice, like she's the best card for that line right now. But all it takes is one card, one buff. And she's just I think she's the first cut in the deck.
Probably. She's on the chopping block. And then you have whatever control cards is the flavor of the meta.
Right.
So, yeah. Jubilee 4-1. On reveal, add the top card of your deck to this location. Also one of the most like swingy, high rolly cards in the game. Currently in some very dominant decks of any Lockjaw and Hela interaction. But just on her own,
bottom
man, I don't
of
know.
B?
Yeah, probably.
Like, I think she's better on average than Cosmo because she has the swingy nature. But like, yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm leaning.
Kazar 4-4 ongoing. Your 1-cost cards have +1 power.
Okay,
coming from a couple Zoo players, it's going to be tough here.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to shock you.
Oh yeah, C tier? No, I agree. He's on the chopping block for my Zoo deck as well.
It's weird, right? Because you're just like,
I cut him for Cull.
Why would you not play Kazar? But it's like, well, because reasons. He's not that crazy. And if they Killmonger, what does he do? He just
Speaking
waves.
of Killmonger's next 3/3 on reveal, destroy all 1-cost cards. Killmonger is one of those that right now I'm surprised he's not being played more. I think it's because of Kyera. Maybe that's why it shouldn't be too surprising. Incredible
I do
card.
think an A tier card though.
Individually, yes.
Yeah.
It's just surprising that he doesn't have a meta home at the moment.
Right. I mean, it's Sarah Control, but he's like, it's a revolving door between him, Mobius, Ghost, and I think that's really those three. Because Gladiator's a shoe into that deck. Mobius should be a shoe in. In my opinion, if you're going to cut any card, it's Killmonger. If you want to play Ghost, purely because Shang-Chi and Shadow King can do his job. Shadow King more so because the things you're targeting, like Deadpool, like Nebula, like Sunspot, you're changing their power. Of course, there's Black Knight, but you take your beats when you take
Thanos
them.
Stones.
Right.
Those decks run Kyera, so what are you going to do?
And the Thanos Stones you care about turning off, like Soulstone, you have Enchantress in the same deck to deal with that too, if you really wanted to do so.
Enchantress the Kyera to hit him with the Killmonger.
Right.
What about Claw? 5/4 ongoing. The location to the right has +6 power. Claw had a true top of the meta appearance. He had a little spike there. I forget what content creator had the deck that launched him, but I don't believe in Claw.
Probably
Cube Stealer, because he's so surprising, but this is kind of what we talked about in C tier, being like very niche to be good. Still can be good, but very niche.
Right. Like he's just, again, on paper, I'm like, damn, I feels good to play Claw and a deck that wants to like spread out some, power, spread out some reach kind of thing. But there are just other cards that are more efficient at spreading reach. Miss Marvel, Omega Red, already are cards that have
3.
it. Yeah. Yep. So
Korg.
C's right.
1/2, shuffle a rock into your opponent's deck. The starting stone on the Hawk synergy that has now kind of fallen by the wayside, but I think you got to put him. I was going to go B tier for him. I was going to go B tier with him and Rock Slide and then put the Hawk up higher.
I think the Hawk is S tier though.
You go all the way to S tier even in the current meta?
Because it is the Hawk is one of the most flexible. Actually, I would argue the most flexible package in existence. You can go Darkhawk Annihilus with Sentry. You can go Darkhawk Jane, Thor, all that stuff. You can go classic Darkhawk with Doctor Doom and Leech. You can go Darkhawk with Mr. Negative. You can go Darkhawk and Thanos deck if you really wanted to, because I've seen it.
He's just a really good stat package. It feels a little bit like people are shifting toward Junk being that package right now. Maybe Hawk comes back around.
You play them together. The best Darkhawk deck, by the way, it's not even close. The best Darkhawk deck and the best Junk deck, not even close, are when they're together.
Yes.
No, it's perfect.
Very nice.
But yeah, I'll take
bounce is also
I'll take
very good,
yeah. My reasoning for maybe Korg being an A, is because he's a player in bounce as well, like Darkhawk bounce, Darkhawk junk bounce as well is another thing. But him being a one cost, I mean, okay. Do we think he's better than APOC?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think he's better than Enchantress?
Yes.
Do you think he's on the same level as Killmonger?
No.
Or better? No. Okay.
I think top of B. Yeah.
Okay. That's been my thought process of trying to like figure out these tiers.
Yep. And they get all mixed up because you put Cosmo in C tier. Anyway, Craven. When a card moves here, this gains +2 power. Man, Silky Move had its time, and now the time is just gone.
It's still an Craven, okay deck. I stand by that. Still perfectly okay.
Okay is in a C tier deck?
Okay is in a B tier deck. I would say above
B
average.
tier deck?
Yeah, above average.
Is Craven B tier then? I don't think he is.
No, he's C tier. He's not the reason you play that deck. He's better than Iron Fist.
No. No. I feel like literally my mind is like, I kind of like seeing a big Craven. Oh, Kingpin?
Because now you can just do the Silky Smooth with Kingpin instead.
Sure.
Or both.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think Silk's the reason you play that deck.
The reason that you play Silky Move is because of the Spider-Man into Craven. That's it.
Oh, it just feels good. Yeah.
It feels so good. But anyway, I'm agreeing where we're putting him here. Lady Sif, 3/5. On reveal, discard the highest cost card from your hand. She has to be just as good as Blade, right?
Right. I would say just under Blade.
Okay, fair.
Because Blade is the most targeted you can be. It's a very specific spot. Yep. She has that chance of like, when you play Blade, you're playing him with absolute intent of hitting a very particular card. Lady Sif has that option of like, maybe I'm taking a 50-50 on losing my Hela or my Infinite kind of thing, right?
Right.
So that's where it's a bit, different.
Leech, 5/3. At the start of turn 6, remove all abilities from cards in your opponent's hands.
Okay.
AS.
People that hate Leech would say S. I'm going to say he's A. I think he's worse, better than Blade, worse than these 3 cards.
Yeah. Because there are plenty of situations where you should not play Leech. There's plenty of decks that cannot play Leech, but the decks that do play Leech in the right situations, they pop off and he wins you those games.
And please, for the love of God, there are plenty of situations where you don't need to retreat against Leech. Stop it. The reason his cube rate is so high, the reason his win rate is so high is because you all auto retreat against this stupid green fuck. I'm sorry. I try to not cuss anymore in this show, but I'm so tired of you retreating against him. Stay in. You can win. You can. You can. You have the power. They took a huge tempo loss to play this stupid dude on 5 for 3 power. And you're going to cry and leave because your Lady Sif is now just a vanilla 3/5? Play the card. Play it. Yep. God.
Exactly. You might be surprised on how many you're able to dig back. Another green guy, Lizard, 2/5. Just power creeped out of position.
Yeah, he's C tier.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think enough said. Mantis, another guardian, one of the most unique guardians. 2/3 on reveal. If your opponent played a card here, this turn, draw a card from their deck, even lower. Yep, you snap on Mantis, my friends.
I don't know. Like, I don't blame you for trying her.
No, I do. I blame you for trying her.
I'll give you it. Is she worse than Domino though? At least you get something out of it. I think Domino's worse.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
There we go. We split the hairs, and here she is. Yep. Medusa, 2/2 on reveal. If this is at the middle of vocation, +3 power. Power creeped.
Hear me out. This might be the most insane take yet. Because I'm doing it.
No.
I don't care. I think she's the best 2-drop in the game.
No. The best 2-drop in the game? Are you crazy? There's Zabu.
Yeah, you're right.
You think she's better than Zabu?
On average, probably.
Oh my
let's
goodness, she's
let's take
not
a
better than
gander at
Zabu.
let's take a gander at
You're gonna pull up
Untapped real quick.
stats.
Let's
You're gonna
see.
look at a win rate for Medusa.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious. Let's
What
see if we
on
can pull up some.
earth?
Let's look at the card tier list. How about that?
Yep.
Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go post infinite.
Yep.
All right. So
Where we both play all
Zabu
our
is in
games,
B
right?
tier.
Yep.
Has a plus 0.5 or 0.05. Wait,
He's
hold
just
on.
so
Oh, wait, hold on. They
ubiquitous.
don't even. Will they even have the card? Sometimes they're wonky with it. I'm just gonna fucking search it.
Search it.
Medusa.
She's just like way more niche.
She has a higher cube rate,
but just such
she's
a
in B
low
tier with
popularity.
Zabu according to her rate.
That's more like where I would put her. I'm surprised that Zabu is in B.
Oh, he has a 0.05 and a 50% win rate.
So his win rate is better. His cube game
symptom
is worse.
of Zabu being in so many decks, like Sarah.
Oh no, his popularity is through the roof, and so that's what just equalizes it into 50-50 because there's so many mirror matches, and then Zabu his stats lose.
All right, I'll put her in A. I'll put her in A. I'll put her in A. I don't want to make people crazy. I do think she's probably top of A. I genuinely, just because if you look at Lockdown, super giant priority decks, including my own creation as well as a bunch of other ones that I've seen online. Just like the tempo-y style of deck, the good stuff deck that's not running Darkhawk, you just play this card. This is just your default 2-drop. Like even above Jeff. Jeff is like that 2-drop you put in when you're like, well, I don't have anything else I can put in the deck anymore. I'm at 11 cards. Let's put in Jeff because he's good.
Yeah. But the tempo and with how much tempo matters, Medusa is very good. All right. The two Misters, Mr. Fantastic and Mr. Sinister.
C and C.
I agree.
Look at that. So you're on the same page for most of these.
This is only because Mr. Fantastic has gotten a big bump up with like the power of priority and then Supergiant into Goliath. Otherwise, I'd probably put him even lower. But yeah.
I mean, Misty but he's just an average card.
Sinister.
I think they're both just average cards.
Right.
I would say Mr. Sinister is just better than Doctor Strange.
I'm putting him at the bottom. I might put him all the way down in D, but he's
I think of like
C2.
I think of like Patriot. I think of like, Iron Lad hitting Mr. Sinister makes you really happy, kind of thing. Like that style of deck.
Maybe I should try that deck again and just see how good it is. Right now, my mind is saying it's not, but maybe there's something there. So, okay, I'll take it.
Let's say he's right next to Heimdall. How about that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Not where you want to be. He's going to send you somewhere else. Misty Knight. 1-2. We've got to save this city. And we do, just by being like good enough to play in High Evolutionary.
Are all the High Evo cards just A?
She might be B tier. Like if the opponent develops Misty Knight, though. So what do you groan more if you see turn 1 Sunspot, Nebula, or Misty Knight?
Here's the thing, like Misty Knight has that reach to other lanes, is where like that's where my mind's going, where the pull is. She's just a 1/2 on herself. She's exactly on rate in that sense. But yeah, I'll agree.
Okay.
I'll agree. She's not quite as impactful as Cyclops. Definitely not as impactful as Hulk. Not as impactful as Leech. Comparing all these other cards, I think these are on average better. But she's still incredibly good in her deck.
Fair. Moon Girl 4/4 on reveal. Duplicate your hand.
I think the time for Moon Girl has abandoned us, and I think she's C tier.
So slow.
Yeah.
And clunky. Honestly, I would probably be okay seeing a version that's a 3-cost come back.
Yeah, I think
leave Devil Dino at 5, but bring Moon Girl back down to 3 and just see what happens. say that maybe you'll revert it if it's too much, but right now I think that's like the level of dramatic change would be needed for her to come back into the meta. Because that's the thing, she's so far out of it right now. Even then, she might not be meta. Morbius, 2-0 ongoing +2 power for each time you discarded a card this game. Definitely one of the best discard cards.
He is. We agree. Trying to think. I'm putting him right here for now because I'm comparing him to his buddy Apoc in the same deck, right?
Yeah.
And Morbius, I'm always happy to see when I have him on 2. But once that turn passes, especially with how constrained discard is, with how on curve they are with like their plays, I find him a bit more difficult to weave in. And I'm finding myself more willing to just kind of let it go. I'm like, I missed the window on Morbius. It's not the end of the world. Where if I have Apoc in hand, I'm more willing to try to like play off curve on certain games to get the Apoc developed more to make my Dracula better or just my final turn better, where I'm not willing to do the same thing for Morbius. So that's my reasoning for putting him under Apoc. I will let you decide where he goes among the other players here.
No, I think that right next to Apoc is pretty good, especially with what we have up above him. So I'm good with this placement.
Okay.
We can move on to Morph 3-0. On reveal, become a copy of a card in your opponent's hand. One of the most meta-dependent, swingy little blighters. No.
Where do you have him? Because I think he, to me, is on the same level as all these cards here. Like, he's fun, he's swingy, he can be amazing, he can be the worst card ever, but he's definitely better than the other ones in D. But I don't think he's better on average than a lot of the ones in C because they have the flat aspect of consistency behind them. Moon Girl's not very good, like we just said, but at the very least, she's consistent.
I'm a Morph lover, man. I'm going to put him up there next to Cosmo. At least.
You want to jump every other card in C.
Yeah.
You think Morph is better than Bishop?
Yes.
You think Morph is better than Craven or Ironheart or Bucky? Like, you think he's better than all these cards? I'm telling you,
man, I cut Ironheart in my Renslayer deck for Morph, and I was more successful. That was my testing.
You let me have Cosmo in C, I'll let you have Morph at the top of C.
But
C, let the record be shown that I think he's the top of D.
No, he's good. And he's good in this meta still. It's still a big boy, play big cards kind of meta. Morph is good. Multiple man 2/3. When this moves, add a copy to the old location. This guy is so weird because there's such a small sample size of move. It's really just the Phoenix Force deck that you see him in. That deck is good, but high rolly. He's pretty core to it. You're going in C here, or you're going up to B?
I think C, because like, yes, I get it. The Phoenix Force card, or the Phoenix deck plays him, and he's the main target for Phoenix Force.
Yep.
But that doesn't make him good everywhere else he's played. He doesn't see play in literally any other move deck. Like, he's like the cut
he only did when we had the old
3 series cards.
Yeah, when we had the old Hulkbuster, there was like a window for him, but now even that's gone. So
right, which also makes the Phoenix Force deck worse by default, by the way.
Yes.
Also, and again, without this guy as a 1/1, he's probably bottom of C. Like, I think even then,
Forge is helping him a fair bit.
Right.
All right, Nikia 3/3. Give all your cards in hand +1 power. I thought she was back. She was not back.
Yeah, but I think she's better than a lot of these other ones in C. I put her on par with like Fantastic, Ironheart, and stuff like that. I think she's better than a lot of these other behind her. I see no reason to be upset with someone for playing her. I think she's fairly decent as a cool idea in Surfer. If you don't want to do Killmonger Nova, it saves you a card with essentially the same kind of thing. You don't get the offensive strategy of Killmonger and attacking what your opponent is doing with their 1 cost, but you're not handcuffed to a 1 cost to grow your stuff. But then, with all that being said, Surfer's fallen out of favor quite a bit. So
yeah,
C.
Hard for her to have a spot. Namor, 4/6 ongoing, +5 power. If this is your only card here, I thought the stat line was going to be premium enough to see a little bit more play with Namor, but it's not materialized. Yeah, we're going pretty low on this one.
Yeah, I actually think bottom of D.
Yep.
He's not quite at your bottom snapping. Well, okay, realistically, we're memeing on this name. If I do see Namor, I do think you're a bot, and I am snapping, by the way. But I think he's D tier. I think he's better than these cards.
He's one of the reasons that a bot deck would beat you.
Exactly. But the Miss Marvel change really hurt like the strategy of like what this kind of archetype wants to do with like solo cards. I'd like to see a Miss Marvel type of card made for Namor, Atuma, Orca kind of stuff. But
the name is Omega Red, Brad, and we'll get to him later. Nightcrawler 1/2. You can move this once. It's pretty lackluster. He's just like good enough to fill for all your early decks, but then you replace him.
Yeah, he reminds me of Bucky. Like it's one of the first cuts, right? But I think slightly better than Bucky because at least he can be played in more decks.
Nova 1/1, astonishing cut from the Destroy deck. I never thought Nova was going to leave Destroy. Nova has left Destroy because Forge and Nico exist, which is heartbreaking. But I guess he goes with Bucky then, right?
Yeah, I think I would put him a little bit above some of the cards above Bucky, because he has applications in other decks. Just because Killmonger can synergize with him in that sense, like Surfer and remember old versions of Sarah Control would do Nova Killmonger. That's still a possibility some way down the line. But yeah, Nova is just what he brings is so far beyond what Snap is at currently.
Yeah, exactly. Is it time for the +2 Nova to return, Brad?
No, that's such a jump.
How much would you pay for a +2 Nova?
What kind of I'll answer that question better. I would pay a large sum of money to Second Dinner to not have them do that. I do think that
I think a 3 cost, and it could be pretty popping.
A 3 cost, destroy it, but then you don't lose the Killmonger interaction. What are you doing? You have to get it with like...
Yeah.
I think a 2 cost at that point is good enough then.
Okay.
Like he's Bucky that just gives +2? Sure.
Yeah,
that's fine. But as a 1 cost, that's such a huge jump.
No. It can never be on a 1 cost body again.
Yeah. Well,
Odin.
2/2 is fine.
Wow.
Ooh, Odin.
I thought you'd go higher. 6/8 on reveal. Activate the on reveal abilities of your other cards here. He's again one of those high roll powerhouses, but just not really in favor at the moment.
Yeah. He's not here. Let me start with that. He's not here. So don't freak out at me. I'm putting him next to his brethren that have stood the test of time. And I think Odin kind of has, but...
He's always going to have some kind of deck.
But he's not even there. Is he the very top of C?
Maybe. Because when he gets played, he has a good win rate. But when he's included in deck, those decks are generally not good.
Yeah, like look at Rampant as an example. You're just like, if I don't have Odin, I'm okay with it because I probably already played. Like I can still do Goliath, I can still do Doctor Doom, I can still do Leader. Odin's just kind of gravy. So yeah, see.
Going to be interesting to see how that stacks up with Onslaught in a second. But first we do a Koye. 2/2 on reveal. Give every card in your deck +1 power. Shockingly unimpactful.
Very bottom of C. She's not D.
No,
right?
She's I'm snapping. I'm sorry.
I'm not putting her there. She's an average card. She's no. Again, she's not F tier though. I think she's better than all these other cards in D. All right. She's not very good though. Look, I think she's average. She's an average card. Yep. She gives a buff to your deck. She's cute. Look, put it this way. Some Surfer decks still play both Okoye and Nakia for Shaw, right?
She's better than Captain America. I'll give you that. So I guess it's fair.
She's definitely better than Cloak.
Yes.
Okay.
Which, looking at it now, Captain America should probably be better than Cloak himself, or maybe Namor
you're right.
at the top of D. I don't know, but we'll get into that.
No, Namor is not. I'm so sorry, Namor is not, because because what does he max out at?
He's a big fish boy.
He gets what? +4?
+5. He's 11.
Okay, so he's 11.
One of
11's
the
gonna win you
biggest
the lane, buddy.
forecasts. No, you have to have something else.
At least Cap America can be a 3/6 with other
Yep.
things.
Right. You especially with Onslaught 6/7 ongoing, double your other ongoing effects here. This is the Tribunal deck. It has to have Onslaught.
Yes.
So how good do you think that Tribunal deck is, and how much do you hurt Onslaught for only being playable in that one archetype?
I think Onslaught's a bit underrated. I think Onslaught has some other places to be played.
Oh yeah, are you playing him? Wait, not with Omega Red. Are you?
I've been trying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
I
cool.
remember when Ms. Marvel was first out, there was some pretty good Onslaught Ms. Marvel interactions.
Right.
But now she's just way harder to activate.
True.
And Omega Red lost a little bit of his power on the ability, so I don't know. Does it still feel good?
It feels fine. So you know what I've been doing with Onslaught?
What?
That's been insane. I've been playing this Destroyer deck, sorry. And Onslaught on a lane with Ant-Man and Mojo is so they never expect it, and then Mojo's 14 power, Ant-Man's 8 power, and you just solo that lane, and then you have like Destroyer somewhere else, or like just you've established some other cards in the other lane, or with Warpath as well. So the only reason I still have Warpath in that deck, otherwise he's a cut, but because I have Onslaught in there, I also have Omega Red in that list as well. So I think Onslaught, for what he does, for what he can bring, I would say very, very, very bottom of B, because the ceiling and application of like where he can go, and because the deck he's in with Living Tribunal is better than most decks Odin would be in. But Onslaught is a card where like if you don't have it, you're not too upset. Of course, you would like the wonderful Iron Man into Onslaught into Tribunal. That feels amazing. It's like I win the game button, but you can win without him.
Yeah, it's assembling Exodia, or the closest thing that Snap currently has.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think the closest thing for that, I would argue, is like Gambit Wong Mystique shenanigans with like APOC and Swarm and stuff to like keep it going.
Oh, man.
That actually feels like you're playing Exodia, but no Pot of Greed, no Upstart Goblin, nothing. You get no card draw. You're no library either, or magical library. You're just like,
no.
I will naturally draw into a Heart of the Cards, baby.
Yep, Heart of the Cards. Professor X 5/1 significantly knocked down after his 5/3 days, but still so pivotal. Top of B?
Nah, I think
not even top of B.
Okay, hear me out. I think right now, on average, like look at where he'd be played. Lockdown. So let's compare him to Jessica Jones, a card in Lockdown. On average, she's better right now.
Here's the thing: is like right now, I actually like him a lot because he's great against Hela and Destroy.
I do too. I like him a lot too. I've been trying this Ravonna deck again with him, the Martyr and Titania, as well as Havoc. It's kind of sneak under on turn 5.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That feels really good.
Glenn's playing Havoc right now, chat. Look out.
But that being said, and I also said, by the way, earlier, I think the classic, turn 3 Psylocke or Timestone Thanos deck with Professor X on 4, like Blue Marvel, buff your lanes and stuff like that. I still think there's a lot of merit to that kind of style of deck. But that just means he's a playable card and you're overlooking him because of the nerf. That doesn't mean he just ascends himself above all these other cards, because look at like Misty Knight, for example. Misty Knight is just incredibly consistent. Professor X is still that risk factor of like maybe they play a card there that I'm not expecting them to, because of course my opponent should play a card in the left lane here. Absolutely should. Everything in the game is telling them they should. They'll never play in the right lane, and then they do, and you lose. And you're like, well, why did they do that?
Fill the right lane.
Yeah. So that's why I have him just under Jessica.
Okay. The Punisher. 3/3 ongoing 1 power plus 1 power for each enemy card here. I think severely underrated right now with how much Gladiator is around. I think a little more Punisher should be played. So I personally like him, but I understand he's a bad card. Quicksilver, 1/2, starts in your opening hand. If you guys are just listening, we put Punisher in C tier, by the way.
Yes, sorry.
D tier?
D tier. He's in D tier, right underneath Captain America. The only reason
and I think we might have another entry. Actually, Quicksilver's F, right?
He's Quicksilver right is your bot. And Quake. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You see it above Scarlet Witch.
Oh yeah, Mr. I forgot Negative. My alphabet for a second.
Yep, that'll get you.
He's better than Domino, I'll say, for one reason
spicy.
Only. If they spider ham on one and for some reason you're like, I'm going to keep him, at least that's the only application. He's your spider ham protection. I have one guy in chat. I believe hilarious. It's actually Lloyd, who is also one of our Patreon subs. Yeah. Says they love Quicksilver because the spider ham thing. And they've been trying to tell me, play this. If it's not Lloyd you're listening, I apologize. It's either you or Cuzzy in my chat.
All right.
I apologize. Well,
Rhino, 3/3 on reveal, ruin this location. Also down there.
God. Wait, hold on. I flew by him. Okay, look.
So bad.
You think he's bad?
Yep.
Okay, I've been playing him C3. I think he's like you got to give me C tier. You got to give me average, because hear me out.
Average.
Because at the very least, it's a definitive location change.
Yeah, that's what Scarlet Witch is.
No.
Yes.
I actually do not like Scarlet Witch comparatively to Rhino, especially because, yes, you get the 2/3 instead of a 3/3. That is a big deal. However, for locations you absolutely just need to change, a la in a C3 deck, and you just need it to not exist, Rhino is so much better in that sense. And I think he has more application than a Captain America or Punisher. Because location changing is a bit better than maybe buffing your own board. You gotta give me C. He's
gotta be in D.
He's just a hair above D.
He's gotta be in D. It's hurting me for you to put him above the Punisher, but you can put him at the top of D if you want.
Fine. I think he's C.
All right. Where do you think Rocket Raccoon goes? You said the only 2 1/4s. There is technically one more 1/4.
You're right. However, you have to snipe.
He's not as good as the other ones, for sure. Not as good as the other ones.
Okay, this is absolutely the very bottom of C.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember enjoying playing like a Moon Girl deck with like the She-Hulk tricks with Rocket. Yeah. Sabretooth. Does he just go right next to Bucky?
He's underrated. I wish he got like a little bit of love when he got destroyed. Like maybe I think he's better than Bucky, by the way.
What if he just started at a 3/5?
Yeah, if he was just a 3/5, or he just gained +1 every time he was destroyed, became a 3/5, a 3/6. I really like him with Venom.
Yes.
I just think that and with Null, by the way.
Yeah.
But the problem being, Destroy has so many good cards to choose from. He's just so easy to not run.
Yeah. Why choose him? Sandman, 5/4 ongoing. Players can only play 1 card a turn. An interesting safety valve similar to Leech, but that gets played way less.
Right.
You going as high as B tier?
I'm thinking A.
What the heck?
As a possibility.
He's out there with Odin, man. It's that ramp deck, right? I mean,
well, I think the ramp deck is slept on, first and foremost. Okay. I think as far as safety valves go, Sandman is one of the best. I think he is man.
There's a lot of Sandman love. I was not expecting this.
I really like Sandman as a card. I wish he was a 4 cost for my selfish reasons of wanting to play him in
me
Ronin.
Too. No,
I will say B. I think B is fine. He's almost A for me.
Are you telling? So should I be playing Ramp?
I think Ramp's really good right now.
You think Ramp is good right now?
Think of how many decks want to play multiple cards at a time, especially like Sarah Control. I would argue that even
play some Ramp.
Even Hella Black Knight surprisingly plays a lot of multiple cards a turn kind of thing. And I think if you get them in a game where you're telling them you can only just play, your one at a time to set up your big like 20 power whatever and hope you get hella off of your 2 discards, you can really stand toe to toe against them in that kind of game.
Okay.
Especially when you're running Goliath and leader and stuff like that too.
Scarlet Witch 2/3 on reveal replaces location with a new one. I'm one of the biggest Scarlet Witch lovers. So
I am not even one of the biggest. I am the biggest Scarlet Witch hater.
I burned too many times on what
I hate this card.
Up.
I hate her. I hate her. Yeah. I hate her. I think she is abysmal to run. I think back when we had Sarah Control, that was like, yeah, you run Scarlet Witch, like that old version where it's like, like Mysterio and stuff too. Nope, I ran Jeff instead. Don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care. I'll deal with the locations. I just don't care. I want her in D, but she's actually C. She's actually C. She's in the middle here, but I hate her.
I'll accept this. Scorpion 2/2. On reveal, afflict cards in your opponent's hand -1 power. How do you still feel about Scorpion? Remember we were joking about there was a time where he was S tier with
right.
Iceman.
He was.
Does he just go next to Iceman or is he lower?
He's not. Because he doesn't B tier. He's C tier.
Because he doesn't bounce.
If it wasn't for the fact that A-bomb style high Evo decks with Affliction played him sometimes, he wouldn't be in the meta at all.
No, fair.
And frankly, I'm surprised sometimes when I see him hit the board and my hand gets smacked around. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Sentinel 2/3. On reveal, add another Sentinel to your hand. Loki ran this for a little bit, has cut it now, so that really hurts it. Gives it not really a home. It's interesting because we have Mocking. Hang on, Mockingjay, Mockingbird,
Mockingbird. I believe Mockingjay.
Sorry, I just watched the 4th Hunger Games, guys. You're gonna have to forgive me. Is that added Sentinel going to discount her? You think?
It's a copy, so yeah, I would imagine a White Queen copy or something like a Mirage would work, right?
Yeah, fair. So maybe there's something in the future, but right now, no.
I think it's an average card. I'll never chastise you for running it. Frankly, in any deck for that matter, if you can, I could see an argument for anyone that says I just want a consistent 2-drop that I can play if I miss my curve. I'll be like, okay.
All right.
You might lose some games because of it, but I understand your thought process completely.
We have a couple more pretty interesting cards to talk about, but we have the best one right now. Shang-Chi 4/3. He's S.
He's
right?
S. He is game defining.
He is the top of this era.
Game defining that they changed his ability to shift the goalpost of what he defines in the game itself, and he's still doing it.
And then they shifted everything else around him, and they're just like, we need more space. Shang-Chi is still like the line.
Right.
They just decided they were going to move the line, and he's still amazing.
I wouldn't be shocked if there's ever a world where he's like he only hits like 11 or 12 or higher, right? I think that's a ways away.
That would be very interesting if they keep on moving it to give themselves more granularity. What I'm more interested about is a symmetry with Valk. Does he ever become a 5/3, or does Valk first become a 4/3? I don't know.
He goes to 5 before she goes to 4. I think the idea of him not having that synergy with Zabu is something that they actually, I think as early as now, that's already probably a conversation that's happened behind closed doors for them.
What if he just had an extra line, cannot have his cost reduced? Because I know it's making the card complex, but
I think it just comes down to they don't want to open that can of worms, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to set that expectation to where that's an option for them.
It's very inelegant design, right?
Exactly.
But it would make sense if you're kind of in the game, for how powerful he is and how much of a difference it makes to be able to play him and a 3 cost versus if he's normal cost, that's often the only card you play on the final turn. So,
Right.
All right. Now for our little rapid fire spit through of the rest of these, we got Shocker 2/3. Oof. Hurts. High Evo doesn't even run this guy that often. When he does get run, he has some surprisingly effective plays.
Yeah.
C tier or B tier?
For his height. For what?
C tier or B tier?
I would say C. For high
Yeah.
value
Okay.
C.
Yeah. All right. Spectrum 6/7. On reveal, give your ongoing cards +2 power. After she got the +2 power on her body, I thought she was going to have more of a splash. She has not splashed. Mega Maogwai came back to Snap and was playing a Wong Spectrum deck within the top 200 ranks. It looked a little painful. I'm still going to put Spectrum pretty low.
Yeah,
Yeah,
towards the top of C.
It is like Onslaught, Odin, and Spectrum are managed to be very close, and you unlock them all at the same time.
Right.
Okay. Spider Woman, 5/8. On reveal, afflict all enemy cards here with -1 power. We already had a little bit of a discussion on her.
I think she's probably low B.
Oh, you're moving her way above Gamora.
I think she's sneaky good. I think she's underplayed. I think she's criminally underplayed, actually.
Yes.
One
of the most underrated cards.
Yeah. And I view her as better than a lot of these cards in C. And then I look at Onslaught and I'm like, yeah, probably better than Onslaught. That's my reasoning.
Gotcha. No, I'm good with this. Squirrel Girl, 1/2. On reveal, add a 1 power squirrel to each other location. As a Zoo player, I'm playing Squirrel Girl right now. I like it, but I know it's not a good card in anything else.
Right. Like I view her like kind of down here with Doctor Strange and stuff. Yeah. Like you can
very
play
niche,
her, but yeah.
And the deck still does fine without her. So
yeah. Man, I am so happy to see this C tier blowed up. There was a time where B and C just kept getting 1-2, 1-2, and I was like, oh no, are there just a lot of B tier cards? No. Yeah. We found it. We found
this is still like the early series. Wait till series 3, 4, and 5. And 4 and 5 is going to be like, wow.
Right.
All right. Star-Lord on reveal. If your opponent played a card here this turn, +3 power. One of the better Guardians, arguably alongside Gamora, just because he's so much cheaper. But you're knocking him way down with Rocket in low C, which I wouldn't argue too much.
Yeah, because my thinking is like the cards that do what these do, or like fit
where
these
did
like
Lizard
these roles.
Go again?
What was that?
Where's Lizard again?
He's up here by Mr. Fantastic.
Okay.
I think Lizard is on average better because you can play him with Enchantress and at least have the option to turn off or with Zero. Right?
Yeah, but then you have to hit on the Star-Lord, and he's not really cheap enough to bounce. So, Storm, 3/2 on reveal. Flood this location. Next turn is the last turn cards can be played here. One of the most game-defining effects. One of those cards that has never been changed.
I think A.
Yeah. No, I play a lockdown with Storm
just
quite a bit.
Really good. And the fact that you can kind of extend into lockdown decks, I mean, I think better than Deladino, actually. I think probably right next to Lady Sif.
She's one of the best design cards. Again, I think Snap has a couple really well-designed cards within like all of card games, and Storm is one of them.
Yep.
I don't know about this next one being there, but Strong Guy, 3/3 ongoing if your hand is empty, +6 power.
Oh, man. Look, I've been playing a lot of Strong Guy with Zukula and stuff. He is the top of D.
Yeah.
He's the very top of D. I have been pleasantly surprised at how many games I've won with Strong Guy. But because Zukula itself is probably a C tier deck in and of itself, and Strong Guy is like almost cuttable on that deck as well. Yeah, he's top of D.
All right. Sunspot, 1/0. After each turn, gain +1 power for each unspent energy. This is really going to be on the high evolutionary deck alone. He used to have total meta saturation, and at this point, it's just in that one deck, but in that one deck, oh my goodness. Yeah. And with Kyera, good lord, why did that deck have to get Kyera?
I think Sunspot is actually underplayed. I think most decks think that Nebula is the natural, vanilla version of Sunspot that can be generically good in all their decks, kind of like what Medusa is able to do. But obviously Sunspot is the best in high Evo because it naturally synergizes with his ability so much. But man, like I think Sunspot is still good enough to be like a Nebula generically. I think he's very, very high up in A.
Fascinating. Well, when I play ramp,
he's
I'm gonna have
one
to
of the
see
best
if I bring
cards
him in.
in Haivo.
Oh yes,
Maybe the best card.
I definitely groan when I see Sunspot get played. I think more so than any of their other one costs. Like the Misty Knight, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm fighting. And the Nebula, I'm like, I'm going to have to play that lane. But the Sunspot, I'm like, no.
Right. And then they have all
I
three.
know that's going
like,
to be a lot of power.
Damn.
Yeah. Then it's like, well, maybe I just retreat. Swarm. 2/3. When you discard this, add 2 copies that cost 0 to your hand. It's tough.
I'm feeling B.
Yeah. Where was APOC again?
B. I think probably.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
right in there,
right above Morbius. For the same reason I said earlier, Morbius, I'm not willing to sacrifice my turns or like how to like to maneuver around playing him. But Swarm is so impactful when you get those zeros on the last turn alongside APOC or whatever to help empty your hand for Dracula. I'm willing to shift the goalposts around to get Swarm active.
How about Swordmaster at 3/6? Discard a card from your hand. I don't like this card.
D.
Yeah.
No, I know that's not fair. I think C. It is average. No,
it's like with Strong Guy. Doesn't that make sense?
It's. I think it's enough bigger than Strong Guy. I could see the argument for D. I feel like that's a bit too harsh. I think very bottom of C is fair.
How about Collector? 2/2. When a card enters your hand from anywhere except your deck +1 power, the devs have promised
crazy
that he will get a little bit of a buff now that his synergy with Loki has been broken. That buff has not materialized at all. Into C tier, upper C tier is what we're looking at right here. And I think right now that's a very fair statement. Again, maybe something with Songbird. Yep. Would be able to come in and that agent deck breathe some new life. But right now, tough. The Infinite, 620, A or S.
Ooh. So, okay, Infinite might be one of my favorite cards in the entire game. Top 10, for sure.
Also one of the best designed cards in the game.
Agreed. That being said, though, I was leaning towards B.
No, it's got to be.
Let's think about it this way.
He pops off so hard in so many decks.
We've placeholder temporary for B, top of B.
Okay.
My reasoning is, think of all the decks he's played in, right? All of them.
Yeah.
He's not the reason you play them. He is a very good plan B to a lot of what those decks are doing.
I don't know. Isn't like the discard decks kind of for that 20 power?
Yes, but also they have so many other big cards in general just for Hela that he's almost guaranteed to be good in the Hela version.
No, he is.
In like the version I was running Sarah,
Infinite, the other deck cards are plan B to the Infinite in Black Knight.
Let me look at if I look real quick at what's it called? The Black Knight list.
Yeah.
Does the Sarah one run Infinite still?
I'm actually not sure what its current version is. It certainly can.
It does. If not Magneto and Scar.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Looking through every Black Knight list has Infinite except for this really bad one.
Here. Yeah. The performance on it was literally like
another really bad one.
Ugly. But there you go. And then like also he's so good. Also, he is so good. Hence my analysis.
I'll say A.
All right.
But I think he's not. Okay, I'll put it this way. He doesn't surpass Blade. Without Blade existing in his current form, Infinite's nowhere near as good in Black Knight.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So for that reason, I'm putting him below Blade. Actually, below Lady Sif as well.
Okay. Remember when you would storm Sunspot and then just Infinite somewhere else?
I wrote an article on that for the Series 2 How to Infinite, and that was like a deck guide. That was my first article I wrote for Marvel Snap.
Yep, and that was one of my most successful YouTube videos of all time.
Look at
I think
that.
it was like can't
Isn't
stop the
that
infinite. Or
crazy how
no,
like
it was infinite or infinite is what I titled it.
that's great. Isn't that crazy how both of our beginnings for Marvel Snap kind of tie very closely with Infinite as a card, and now here we are hosting the show together. Isn't that beautiful? It's poetic.
Yep, it is. We found each other. The Thing 4/6. It's clobbering time. He's got to be up there with Shocker, right?
Yeah, I would put him. He's better than Shocker. I almost want to put him in B because I feel like he's underrated, but his stats probably screams C. But then I look at like what he's around. I feel like in High Evo he's better than almost. I would say all of these other C cards. Am I crazy for thinking that?
Well, yeah, it goes up with like Spider Woman as the Affliction game plan.
Yeah, so I think B is fine.
Okay.
Probably better than Spider Woman though.
Okay. Uatu. 1/2 at the start of the game shows the right location to you. We've moaned how bad this card is. It's in the bottom. You're a bot.
Yeah, you are a bot. You are
play
better than Mantis because it gives you information, I guess. It should just show you all three lanes. Stop with this far right lane stupid stuff. Just give me all three.
Maybe the only other contender here in this area for S tier, Vision. How high do you value Vision? I don't go S, but I do go A.
Yeah, I think he is so unique with what he brings to Snap, and he's so good at what he does as a 5/8. He's almost at the top tier of like what you bring as far as power cost ratio.
Yeah. But then the flexibility, right? Because Shuri loves this card now, honestly, more than any other hit. Thanos, if you can develop Vision and Jeff, you throw them to one side, you blob somewhere else. That flexibility is just unparalleled.
Elsa.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, I played a move centric Elsa bounce deck kind of thing with Vision, Jeff, Nightcrawler, and still very good. That's why I think Elsa's still a bit underrated. Spider-Man as well, yeah. Kind of like some silky smooth stuff, but maybe not all in. Vision is just like, if you're building a generically strong deck, I mean, he's great in lockdown. He's great versus lockdown. If you're just building a deck that like wants to have good cards, and you put Vision as your 5 cost, no matter what the other 11 cards are, I can see an argument for it. I can't sit there and be like, you're wrong. I just can't.
No, yeah.
Hey.
All right. I love it. Vulture, 3/3. When this card moves, +5 power.
C?
Yeah, just in the mushy middle. He had a moment. Remember the Freddy Babes deck that was like meta that ran him? That was fun. Good times. Simpler times. Also Warpath here. 4/5 ongoing if any of your locations are empty, +5 power. He was a beneficiary of the buff with kind of the moving of the goalpost like we talked about with Shang.
Yep.
Brad, sounds like you've been actually playing him quite a bit with that Destroyer deck. I have not been touching him at all, and I haven't seen many opponents play him either. I would put him again here in the mushy middle.
Yeah, he is. And I stand, even with me playing him, I would probably put him like right there. He's he's still gonna be a 4/10, but he has that huge constraint of you need to leave a lane empty, to where there's no reason to run him in almost any other deck. And the onslaught thing is cute. If I could, if I had a different card that gained power from something else to benefit with onslaught, I would cut him immediately. So he's average.
Yeah. All right. White Queen, 4/6. On reveal, copy the highest cost card in your opponent's hand. She's just been power creeped, kind of out of position, so putting her in C, lower C, this makes sense to me.
Like better than
if we could rank
Swordmaster.
Cards by art, which we might do in the future, she'll be much higher. But for now, we're on competency. Sorry, she's low. White Tiger, 5/1. On reveal, add an 8 power Tiger to another location. She had a moment with that Lockjaw off of her
the Hella list.
The Hella Lockjaw,
Silver Sam. That was still good. I just played it on stream like a week ago. It was fine.
Yep.
We are so quick to drop decks that were meta mainstays for like a full season because they got a different toy or someone found a different build. And rather than like the new build rise up and then the old build go down a bit, it just does this. And that's my biggest issue with Snap. I think that's incredibly incorrect. I think that deck can still win games. White Tiger is a C tier card, but with everything else,
she's
the deck
playable.
is still
she
fine.
has some very fun.
It just
very
happens
fun
to line up as a fantastic option for that deck, being a 1 power, great with Silver Samurai. You're happy to play on Lockjaw to switch it to something big power than to get 8 in a different lane. Like I it's a different discussion, but please keep playing decks that were good before.
I'm waiting for this Renslayer Patriot to come back around. I haven't made it work yet, but someday. Wolfsbane, 3/1. Also a Renslayer card. On reveal, +2 power for each other card you have here. Again, this is great in like your very first, baby's first Odin deck, but after that, not a good card.
I think it's still average. Like it's like a Vulture to move kind of thing as Wolfsbane is to Wong, right?
Yep. I mean, you're putting it pretty far under Odin here in the middle of C, so I'm good with this. Yeah. All right, I did lie. We had one other contender for S, and it's a bit of a stretch, but I give you Wolverine. Is he S?
No.
Actually, one of the best things about Destroy right now.
Right.
If you can get buffs on Wolverine, you eat it up all day. Definitely A tier. You're saying no on S?
I'm going to say no on S. I think there are only there are a lot of contenders to. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put Wolverine above the Haiva stuff, but right below Forge.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
There are a lot of cards in Destroy that you can make very strong arguments for S. You can look at X-23, Venom, Deadpool, Null, and Death. 5 cards in the deck. I could be convinced of an argument for S.
And Wolverine's just out of the bubble.
Wolverine is like the 6th card you may bring up, but it's hard. It's going to be way more harder to convince me.
Okay.
He's so good. He stood the test of time. It's crazy that we're in series 1 and 2 right now, and he's up here.
Yeah, we've talked about an enormous amount of deck diversity, so I think that is something that's like a great point of Snap. Let's go ahead and finish. We have Yondu as our very last card, and then we can kind of reflect on what the early series tell us and what we can expect looking forward.
Yondu is D tier for me.
Yes, he's not good.
He has
the old days where he would just empower Null for like no reason is like it's not good enough. You can just run other stuff now.
Like X-23 came out and everyone's like, I don't have to run this garbage card. That's amazing.
Yeah. Right.
Also, by the way, if you saw the leaked OTA thing where like they actually put some game text into the client for the power couples thing for like some, possible things they're thinking about, Yondu just would be worse. It's a 1/2. It said on reveal, destroy the lowest cost card in your opponent's deck. That's Gross. Just he needs worse.
Make him destroy 2 cards. Come on, let Mill be a thing. I would just love it. Like, come on, let Cable draw 2 things, let Yondu destroy 2 things, and just let that run for a week and see what happens.
Give me a test server.
Yeah. Oh, hey. But yeah, it is really interesting looking at just the early series cards. We've seen, I see plenty of these faces all the time in my game. So I think that's a really healthy spot for Snap to be in, that you're going to have some of these faces that you play with in the very early days, and you still get to build decks around them, or you get to see whole new aspects of their gameplay emerge, especially in the example of High Evolutionaries, like the biggest call out, right? Elevating some of these cards that were your starter deck.
Yeah, I'm trying to change the color of some of these so we can better discern them. I think D is fine. This, let's make like purple. B tier, I think is fine with that. Let's make this a bit easier to change. Let's make that pink. No, maybe hold on. Maybe A should be yellow. And then B should be pink.
Yep.
We're cooking.
You have to let us know down in the comments if we severely misrated one of the cards.
Or all of them. I'm sure someone will say that.
Yeah, we don't have to go through all of them. Just hit us with the highlights. And if we get any particularly spicy or convincing, succinct statements, we might bring it up in the next podcast. We'd love to hear y'all's thoughts.
Yeah, and we'll name drop you. We'll praise you. And the same is true if you give us a explanation that we disagree with. We'll name drop you and shame you.
All right, we will not do this. We will just do it privately, not on the podcast. Okay, guys, we keep it very welcoming and professional here at the Can't Stop Snapping podcast. Even though we do run episodes for 2 hours and 20 minutes talking about bad cards.
Yep, there's a lot of bad cards here, and
it is.
I did not expect this to take both 2 hours. I thought
Brad.
We could get through it, but here we are. That's a good long episode. I hope you appreciate how long we're doing this. By the way, it is 1 a.m. for me. It is just after midnight for Teddy, just to let you know that we are here in the middle of the night making dumb tier lists for your entertainment. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed it so much and wanted to see it early or even live, like there's a few people watching live right now, go to patreon.com/can'tstopsnapping. You can show your support. And by the way, like Teddy said last week, you don't need to pay to join. There's a free way to join. Just join. Just say hi. Hello. We make posts that are public for everybody. Of course, there are ones that are locked behind tiers based on what you have access to. But if you join on the very bottom tier, which is $5 a month, you get access to early episodes. If you join the next tier, you can watch these, live. The support means a lot. But of course, you guys just listening every week and watching is enough support for us in general. And we love and appreciate you. Look at that.
Tune in to his stream as we test Cull, and then catch next episode to be able to see that really fascinating time in the game, Series 3, the hardest time in the game in terms of a new player progression and where we rank the cards. What are the best ones to grab? What are the ones that you're going to end up forgetting? Thank you, guys.
And, last thing at the door, Teddy. If you could put Corvus in one of these tiers, just off of prediction for next week, where would you put him?
I'm going to go B tier because the ramp is just such a powerful ability in Snap and such a select group that has access to it. I still have not figured out what kind of deck I'm going to run him in, but just on the fact that he ramps your energy, I'm going to give him a chance.
I'm going to say C tier. I think he's just a worse ramp deck on average. Oof. Fun, probably, but hopefully I'm wrong because I'm going to get him and I'm going to be really upset if he's bad.
I think there could actually be something around this new Helicarrier and just like a Thanos deck that has so much card draw it doesn't care if it loses a couple random pieces. And then it just does love having extra energy. And then with the Helicarrier just fully filling the hand, you're like, all right, I got random junk, but I have so much energy. Hit you over the head with random junk. And that's the kind of deck, that's the kind of gameplay I thrive in.
All right. Well, let us know down below in the comments and all that good stuff what you think of Corvus and the tier list. And we'll see you guys next week when we break down Series 3 on the tier list. So stay tuned for that. And of course, Teddy,
don't stop snapping.
Bye, everybody.
Can't Stop Snapping is a podcast hosted and produced by Brad Saffer and Teddy Ninja, originally created by Michael Thurman.